love you, oh loves. Do you have thoughts? Do you wanna share them with me? I love you, oh loves. Oh, do you have thoughts? I'd like to share mine with you. Can we share like lovers do? Underneath the painted blue moon, oh loves, do you have thoughts? And do you wanna share with me? Share with me too. I love you, oh loves. Do you have thoughts? And do you wanna share them with me? 'Cause I've got dreams too to share with you. Come and let's share some fantasies. I love you, oh loves. Do you have thoughts? And do you wanna share them with me? I love you, oh loves. Do you have thoughts? I wanna share mine with you. Please share me with you too. I wanna be with you. I love you, oh loves. Night after our last met, I seen your best time yet. You stood in the sun. I knew you were my woman. When I dreamed that night, I held you oh so tight. Your arms held me like the blankets I ever knew. When I was a baby, you wrapped in my mom's arms, and every night all I did was dream of you. And now you know, 'cause you've seen me too. I hope you wanna go and share your whole life and dreams with me too. Oh loves, do you have thoughts? And do you wanna share with me too? Do you, and oh loves, do you have thoughts? I know I do. Come and share. Can you come and be with me too? I wanna share them with you. Oh loves, ooh, share with me too.
Ambient noise, yeah.
So now you're grabbing some band lab clips.
Now for me, that would also be something where I would use like volume automation and like bring that from the bottom, like bring it in and then bring it back out. Kind of.
And these are the kinds of sounds you can stretch. With this AI, like stretching it actually can be cool.
Oh, that was perfect for the interlude too.
Ends it right in the right
I
spot.
didn't even notice 40. I didn't even realize the texture faded out at the interlude until it happened. I'm like, wait a minute.
Sometimes you just, it was just meant to be that way.
And now we talk some shh.
Shh, shh.
IT
IT
with Glenn and me.
with Glenn, Tony. How's everybody doing?
Oh, it's that time again.
Yes, indeed. It's time once again.
And
And I must say that.
we got a chock
Mhm,
full list tonight of cool
that's
stuff.
right.
It's kind of gonna be an AI night.
hmm
There,
It's been an AI kind of week in the news, and an AI kind of year. I mean, things are progressing so quickly, and we can do so many things with AI that just figuring out the uses. Like we need AI to tell us, like to figure out uses for the AI. So it's like we're using AI to make us better at using the AI better.
yeah,
So that's going to be a very, very fast bootstrapping of how that's going to go, and we'll be able to do all sorts of things. We were talking also about Llama, one of the large language models being able to be trained by GPT-3 and be able to be run on just a regular computer at home, so people can have their own AIs trained at home rather than having to be constrained by some of the models. But for the most part, I think everyone's better off using the ones that they have already because they have the experience and the input from all the people that have been testing each of these AIs, which has been largely instrumental. Like having so many people to hammer it with so much code, makes it that much better at its job.
yeah. And some of the big news in the last week, all the big tech leaders out there, they're playing with GPT-4, and
hmm
they've kind of unlocked it a little bit, and
hmm
you're seeing some of their concern. Elon and some of them have even suggested like a 6-month hiatus to halt development
I saw some of that.
as they consider the ramifications of.
Well, I think they can see the writing on the wall of what's even just 6 months away from where we are right now, and they can see that they're like, well, why don't we think about this for a minute? Because we're making decades of advances in the matter of months these days, and again with AI helping us to plan these journeys, where everything's going to be progressing so much faster as of now.
Yeah, and they're considering like, not just like, oh, the Terminators are being built. They're also
hmm
thinking like job adjustments. We're
Absolutely.
going through the same kind of thing we went through in the 80s when we started to see robotics and
hmm
how
Yep.
jobs shift from one field to another. And it's true, there are going to be a lot of opportunities for work in the AI field, but it's going to take people some time to adjust, you
hmm
know, their
And
skills.
not everybody has to work in the AI field, but they were saying that the vast majority of people will be affected in some ways by AI. In some cases, like we were saying, the AI can be more of a co-pilot. Like if you're a programmer, in some cases, they're going to be 100% exposed to AI, where the AI can literally do their job for pretty well for a lot of cases. Whereas it can also just be a tool that they use to be better at their
Yeah,
job.
whether it
So it's
whether it
about the way they use the tools.
whether it actually threatens high level programmers or not, that is something that would, because I can see how, like, some programming, one of the things Elon mentioned was that, like, web designers, web programming, something that has been good work for a lot of programmers over the last 20 years,
hmm
that's going to be one of the things where AI really can take over. It does it faster, it does it better, and a lot of companies want low budgets when it comes to their web development. So
hmm
I can see them jumping on that technology to bring down that budget, make better web design, and
Yeah. And I mean, when you can just ask the AI just in a conversation back and forth with an AI and have it essentially design a page for you very easily and be able to make little changes to it and things like that. I mean, we are at the point where the AI is your personal assistant. And what I'm really excited about is the benefits in education, just personal education for everybody, because you can have your own personalized educator in the AI. Like the AI gets to know you and what what your interests are, what you need to know, get that, information all squared away. I think that's very helpful and can help fill in the gaps of what you have in your knowledge and help with learning the subjects that you're interested in, because you can just tailor an educational package for yourself essentially. Be like, today I want to learn this, and have the AI basically customize a program for me. I'm going to study for an hour on this subject,
or
and
the
it can
AI
just
can suggest a curriculum. Like, here's the
yeah, exactly,
best
exactly.
approach to learning. this particular
And it can give you
topic.
the step-by-step instructions exactly.
Yeah, and I can see it, helping in the educational field. And at the
Hmm.
same time, like I could see students, those who don't really want to do their homework and, um,
Hmm.
going there to get their
Yep.
school report. And hopefully, with good AI, the teacher AI will know when the student is like using Chat GPT to write their report.
Ideally, it comes down to style. Excuse me, where you can see, the teacher should be able to recognize the student's, writing style compared to the GPT writing
Yeah, and a
style.
good teacher, even before any of this technology, even in the old days, a good teacher can tell when a student what they're reading is not equal to the student that they know.
Hmm.
They
Yeah.
can tell when like something's being plagiarized, or this is above this student's level of understanding.
Yeah. The other thing is that students could always just use the Chat GPT to get the information for the report as if and having it write it for them, but then just basically paraphrase, just rewrite it in their own writing. Like they digest the contents of what GPT writes, and then they just kind of regurgitate it in their own
Well,
style.
see, and that's not
So it doesn't stop all
that
that, but I mean they are getting the information in there at least somehow.
yeah, that's not such a bad situation. I mean, if the student manages to learn
Hmm.
by taking what the AI gives them and
Hmm.
reconstructing it
That's kind of the point for me.
so
Yeah.
they can look like it, I wrote this. Hopefully, they are soaking in the information at the same time, in which case, mission accomplished.
Yeah, it's more that the AI is doing the research end, or at least the going and finding the resources end of things, and could possibly even get the notations at the end, and the footnotes and all that kind of thing, and get it all in there so that you have your references all set up. It can do all that kind of thing for you, at least to get the information together, and then you do all of that as that's your prep sheet, and now you can work on the report. I mean, it's been a while since I've been in school, but for me, it's more also not even as much about the schoolwork. It's more about again personal education, where even you can have since you can do it in a website with a lot of these AIs, at this point you could just go in your phone to a website, so you have in your pocket access to an AI that you could just talk to and say, hey, make me a shopping list for blah 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 blah, and and email it to me at blah blah blah, and you can just talk to it, and all of a sudden you have things on your calendar, or be able to whatever, you just automate so many tasks, and there's so much more to it. Like when you get to a job tasks, you can start automating job tasks that you have, whether it's with records administration or doing backups, things like that. You can automate a whole lot of things using scripts that you can have AI write for you. Write me a Python script to do XYZ. You can walk through that, but there's ways to do it, and that's where it's important to know how to talk to the AI, and that's where prompt engineering comes in, and
And
that's
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 where the
a subject
jobs
that will be big.
that's where
Hmm.
the jobs are going to be.
Yep, that's a super hot right now. So
Uh-huh.
prompt engineering. Hmm.
So
Now,
some of the things we're going
hmm,
to be looking at here, I've got
yeah, yeah,
our let's take a look at these. Oh, and I got us a nice little animated video background.
nice, yeah, yeah, and a voice meter setup.
Yeah,
Hmm.
one of the ones that I wanted to include this week. We're constantly mentioning VB meters, and
Hmm.
being able to mix multiple audio sources to say go into Zoom or uh, through OBS. VB meters is a very important program in that equation, and I have looked at tons of different setup videos out there. This guy's not lying. It is the best voice meter setup guide. It was the first time that I truly understood how to properly set up VB meters. That's one that I hope will help some people to.
And VV meters can be a mind bender, like all the ins and outs. And okay, I want these to come in, but then I want all this in over here. And a lot of times you'll end up with whether it's a loop or feedback or something that you weren't expecting, when you're trying to set it up. So it is important to get everything all routed
Oh
properly,
yeah,
and thinking about the way things are set up.
it's one of the most complicated aspects of getting a good OBS setup. I've got some other videos over the next couple weeks that deal with that also. Like, OBS and audio mixing is the most complicated aspect of OBS. Cameras and things like that, pretty easy to deal with, but audio does take some wrapping your brain around it. And
Most definitely.
we've also got Like I said, a lot of AI tonight. This is a voice
Nice.
changer that I started playing with the other day. That's how I got my Samuel L. Jackson on. And and
That's the way.
and I love this guy's YouTube channel. I'm going to be raving about it over and over when I'm
Nice.
looking for OBS tips and ways to like make cartoon characters and all these things that we do. This guy's YouTube channel is chock full of some of the best tutorials.
Very cool.
And this one's a new one that I stumbled across, but I really love his content that I'm seeing in his playlist. And he goes over some AI apps that are specifically, for musicians and how they can help you to be a better musician, not replace you, but complement you.
Use as a tool. Yep, yep.
And oh, this one I'm looking real forward to. I actually stumbled across it a couple weeks ago and I didn't get a chance to watch it, so I figured this would be a good opportunity because I've looked at voice AIs, just for general speech, but I'm curious to see what they're doing with it to you know see if it can sing. Like, the stuff we saw with Inkbox, that was
Yeah.
early AI. Like we were talking about earlier, the technology has changed drastically in the last year. So we'll take a peek at, like, what's going on in that area.
Nice.
And did you know there's a text to music AI? I
Yep.
didn't either. I was like, okay, we're definitely gonna have to check that out.
Yep.
And this is where we're going to be
Ah,
actually
yes.
starting tonight. Our quest for modern future controllers. This thing is wild. We took a peek at this a little bit, last week, and
The Lumatone.
I can't wait to see what's going on with that.
Definitely. Very cool.
Oh, and I had, our recognize, and I'm thinking like, what's the best source out there to go look for when it comes to recognizing intervals and ear training? And Rick Beato is the king to me of YouTube when it comes to music channels. He
Oh
is
yeah.
by far like one of my favorite music resources on. Every video he does is informative and insight from, like, an industry giant.
Always good. I mean, I've seen a few. There was one where he had his son Dylan, I believe his name is, when he was very young, and he had his back turned, and Rick would play a chord on the piano, like a complicated, jazz chord with, sharp nine, flat 13, whatever, and he'd be able to not only tell him the chord, but he would be able to tell him what each of the notes in the chord are in order, like from the lowest one to the highest one. And it was like, wait, what?
Yeah, his kid is a savant, and Rick must be so proud that, like, oh
Oh
my
yeah.
God, he's got my musical genes.
That was very cool. But that was also about ear training and recognizing intervals and how important that is to, again, I've noticed just the importance myself in my progress as a musician, how important it is to understand or be able to recognize what that interval is, even approximately. And then it helps me to be able to jump into a song and be able to say, oh, that's from this note to this note to this note. I can kind of jump right into a progression because I can get a feel for what the intervals are.
We're gonna see what he suggests to
Oh yeah.
recognize intervals, which is the beginning of ear training. Oh, and we've also got that Jules guitar, when to play major versus minor, which is always the question.
Yep. And that one's more of a guitar thing, but other than that, I think most of these or actually all of them are AI, except for the Rick Beato ear training and this one for the major versus minor pentatonic. And in this case, this one is a little bit more just kind of basic stuff, just kind of keeping it very basic, but getting into the idea that the relative major and relative minor, and in which situations you can use the same position to play both, and it's just about which notes you focus on. So it gets into that aspect of soloing.
Yeah, and Jules is a new one. I'm interested to see how he does his thing.
Yep.
Oh, and going back to the AI and you know, the current situation, uh, the copyright laws are changing fast and furious. That this is
Hmm.
something that's been going on for the last couple of months, where you know they've started to go after like Stable Diffusion and some of the other
Hmm.
image AIs that are out there for
Yep.
how they're building their images. So this will give us a little insight into, you know, where the legal side of all of this technology is really going.
Now, one that I didn't get on our list yet, but one that I saw today actually was about Adobe. Was it Adobe Firefly maybe? And I
Yeah,
think there was an additional
I
one
almost
where
included a
yeah, yeah.
Firefly video tonight because they've been making a lot of noise in the last week. I mean, they just kind of released it last week, and
Hmm. Yep.
since then, the noise on the internet is like, this technology is incredible.
Yep. Well, one thing about it was the fact that just in the short video that I saw, we're talking about two different tools from Adobe right now that were on the main site there, and one was about Firefly there, and about how the images, instead of being just scraped from the internet the way a lot of the other tools were, they just scrape all the images, and that's where they would run into copyright issues because some of the work was copywritten material that it was scraping and then building from in the AI. In this case, all the results you're getting are based on all Adobe stock footage that they own.
Yes, Adobe
So
has a
it's
massive library
mhm,
of footage.
yep. And that's why in this case, everything that you're generating, they 100% already, they have it for you. They already own it. I think they were talking about also another profit sharing kind of a thing, not like the Fortnite one we talked about the other week, where they were talking about 40% of net profits that they're going to share to the creators when they start creating content using their tools there.
Yeah, they're starting to incentivize the artists
Hmm.
who do want to contribute material to the AI,
Hmm.
and giving them some incentive on adding their material. That's the same
Yeah.
thing with the voice AI video that we're going to be
Hmm.
looking at in a little bit. They're doing the
Hmm.
same thing. If
Excellent.
you train it and you give it custom voices, basically it's a credit system. So they're building their own credit system. They start you with, a daily allotment of credits, and if you train it and you give it more voices and more content, you refer people to the technology, you'll earn additional credits to use with the technology, which is a cool approach. I
Nice.
hope to see that more with some of these other. Some of them are just like pay monthly, and we'll let
Yeah,
you
yeah.
try it, but you need to pay every month.
Most of the ones I check out are the free ones or the ones that they tell you they're free. But in a lot of those cases, even free means okay, they'll give you this many tokens, and that means you can do this many per day, or they'll give you the option to do some, but they're low res, or they'll give you the option to do some, but they're behind other people in the queue, so you have to wait longer for yours to actually get done. Things like that.
Right.
They have different methods of disincentivizing or trying to incentivize you to purchase. But there's also plenty good free tools out there, and that's what they were talking about recently. Is there's a lot of really good free tools that have just come out, and with the amount of new AI stuff that I see every week, some of it is the algorithm because I'm watching so much AI stuff, it more comes up in my feed. But it's also just again, this stuff is exponential the way the technology comes along, moves along, and is getting to that point where it's moving so fast that you just got to try to stay up.
Oh yeah, and YouTube definitely knows I'm into the AI because they just keep recommending more AI candy for me to watch.
I see
Hey, we got
Uni over
yeah, we
here.
got Vanner,
Yeah.
Slither, Joe. What up, buddy?
My
Unicorn
text, my chat
Maid.
still isn't catching up.
Yeah, the house is filling.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My chat never refreshes on time, so I always have to get over there and refresh it.
Yeah, I'm still getting
Such a
that.
pain.
I'm still getting that every couple of nights. Like the chat just will not stay persistent.
Hmm. Yeah. What do you do? But yeah, so I think the first one we were going to check out today was the Lumatone keyboard, right? And I think that one.
Yeah, the Lumatone. That's the.
This one is a programmable keyboard. Yeah, with I think it's 275 keys, and you see how they're all colored there. But you can program them however you want. So you can reprogram the colors. You can make them do individual functions. You can see it's got the little mod wheel and pitch bend on the side there. So it's got the two little wheels you'd expect on a regular keyboard. But in this case, the idea is it gets back to what Tony likes to refer to as the claw. Like we talk about the claw for the guitar. So it's like you've got this claw, and if you slide it up a fret, it's the same chord shape, same chord, just, in a different key. Same idea here is once you get a chord shape under your hand, that chord shape, you want to go higher, you go this way. You want to go lower, you go that way. But you can keep that same exact shape, and you get the same exact chord as you move up or down, just in a different key.
I find it interesting, the whole color-coded approach to it. Unless you're colorblind, then that would make an instrument like this a little tricky. But I always believe that color would work great as a musical instrument. Like I wish I could colorize my keys and.
Yeah, and in this case, it's basically, it can just be a visual landmarking system, similar to with on a keyboard. You're basically using the set of 3 black notes and the set of 2 black notes. Like those are your anchor positions. Like you can just glance down, see where you are relative to the black notes. Is it a group of 3 or is it a group of 2? And that tells you right where you are in the scale. Same idea here is like once you get it programmed the way you want. I'm not sure if they're going to get into the individual tunings, but they also talked about getting microtonal, where you could also get in between, where you could have C half sharp, C sharp, D half flat, D, going all the way up where you're getting multiple tones in between everything. You could have 53, intervals in an octave instead of just having 12 or 24. So you can get kind of crazy with how much you can program it and customize it. But I think even just sticking to the general programming way it is, I think you'd get a lot out of it.
This is coming directly from their YouTube site. So at Lumatone over at YouTube, you can find out like a whole bunch of information on them, the instrument. You look at their videos. You'll see them. Oh, am I on the right one? No, that's the singing one.
That one's the singing one. Yep.
There you go. Yeah, you'll see all sorts of examples on how it works, advanced approach to it. This guy really has like covered all the grounds, and look at the big one. Oh. All right.
Crazy.
Let's check this bad boy out. This is another controller I'm going to end up having to get my hands on.
The Lumatone. If they, we would be very happy to, review one on the show. So if Lumatone's listening, by all means, send us one. We'll check it out.
Hell yeah.
We'd be happy to check it out.
I will try it out. So here we go.
Hey, how's it going, folks? My name's Dave, and I recently got my hands on one of these. It's called a Lumatone, and I'd love to tell you about it. So, a couple months ago, this instrument came in the mail, and almost immediately it started rewiring my brain. Certainly in terms of how I thought about music theory, but also how I write and perform music on an intuitive level. The fine folks over at Lumatone have asked me to make a series of videos breaking down some of the possibilities this instrument has to offer. Now, these videos are going to be coming from the standpoint of somebody who deeply loves music and has a strong passion for composing and arranging, but I am not a mystical wizard in music theory. Nor am I a highly technical player that can melt your face with some slaying lead lines. But what we'll demonstrate here is you don't have to be Herbie Hancock to find your way around this thing. Though if you are Herbie Hancock, you should probably check this out as well. So, where to start? Well, it's a MIDI controller with 280 hexagonal keys. We got colors, we got shapes, we got dancing lights. But most importantly, you can assign any MIDI note and any color to any key you see fit. A good place to start is the presets. In my opinion, the 12-tone Boson Cat layout is the simplest and most obvious place to start. It takes the 12 notes of the chromatic scale and maps them out in a familiar and comforting piano layout. Here the white keys represent the naturals from C to B, where the blue keys represent the sharps. But what makes the Lumatone special is now we have the added bonus of being able to move around isomorphically. Meaning, play any chord, say an E minor 9, take that exact shape, move it to any other key to play another minor 9 chord. Instant mediocre jazz. Now it kind of feels like we're just playing the piano like a guitar, just moving around in shapes. This works for scales and melodies too. But there are all sorts of creative ways that we can lay the notes out on a Lumatone that completely reimagine what we're used to. For example, one of my personal favorites is the harmonic table, which lays the keys out by common intervals ascending on the different diagonal axes of the Lumatone, with fifths ascending on this axis, major thirds here, minor thirds, and semitones ascending on this axis. The result here is isomorphic musical perfection. And with the help of the colors, patterns are pretty quickly realized. So now we can play larger chords all within a short reach. Like an F major 7 with the added 9 and sharp 11 can all be played within this space. And now that you know that pattern, you can easily arpeggiate that chord by just letting the light guide you. While it's quick to pick up, it does kind of push you out of your comfort zone, and it gets you discovering progressions and melodies that you weren't really reaching for before. But the Lumatone isn't just about visualizing and playing notes. You know, apart from being able to assign any note to any key and color code them using all of the power of God's rainbow, you can also take advantage of its many expressive modes. Take, for example, its ability to turn any key into a continuous controller. Now, on a traditional MIDI keyboard, we're used to controlling our instrument's parameters with a fader or a mod wheel. But when you're playing with two hands, this can prove to be difficult. I mean, sure, there are ways. But it's not always that convenient. On a Lumatone, every key can also be transformed into a continuous controller. Now we can choose to put the CC on the keyboard itself, anywhere we want, where it makes sense with how we're performing. And on top of that, it also has polyphonic aftertouch, allowing each individual key to trigger a parameter after further pressure is applied beyond the travel of the key. To take that a step further, the folks over at Lumatone invented a new mode of expression. It's called Lumatouch. When this is engaged, once you trigger aftertouch, it converts your entire key into a continuous controller while you're still playing your note or chord, making the speed at which you release the key further control your given parameter. I've found this starts to promote a whole new style of playing. The feedback you get as you move from key to key starts to become really inspiring in a pretty intuitive way. So coming back to the note mappings, Once you move past the chromatic layouts, you'll find you start to enter the alternate dimension of microtonality. Now, as someone who is not a microtonalist, but has always wanted to find a way into this world, I am tickled pink, and blue, and red, and yellow to find that there is an accessible way into this new realm of tones and pitches. So for those of you unfamiliar with microtonality, to put it extremely simply, it's basically using the infinite palette of pitches that live between the chromatic notes that we're used to. While we don't have time to get into it in this video, here's a simple example of how a microtonal scale can be laid out on the Lumatone. Here's the 31 tet boson ket layout. While using the same familiar piano layout as before, we're now splitting the octave up by 31 notes instead of 12. So now that minor 9 chord we played before can now find a new home in a sea of pitches that we previously didn't have access to. So when we split the octave up by 31 notes, also known as 31 EDO, or 31 equal divisions of the octave, one whole step now contains 5 tones. So from C to D, we now have what? So this opens up a whole new world of chords that have always existed, but your childhood music teacher never told you about. Chords like sub-minors and super majors, neutral thirds, super augmented chords, yes please. Unfortunately, we do not have time to get into all these mystery chords that will change the way you think about music, but stay tuned. So fully covering this keyboard's capabilities is a journey. So we'll start slow, and in the coming days, we'll cover the basics and work our way up to the more advanced possibilities. We'll even bring in some of the brilliant minds of the microtonal world to show us how it's done. So if you want to follow along, be sure to like and subscribe. And ding that bell to be notified anytime we cover a new aspect of this new musical tool.
That's a very much yes, please. I'll take 2. I'll take 1 for home and 1 for the car.
I mean, I was kind of sold on it, like with the general introduction, but when he went into the microtonality aspect of it, holy shit! I have been waiting for a controller that I could go micro like that easily. Like you can't just pull that
you gotta
off
kind of hold
on
your
a keyboard.
You got to hold your brain in for that a little bit, because it's like, wait a minute. There's how many notes between C and D? Because I thought I knew the answer to that question, but apparently I was wrong.
What an incredible!
But the fact that you have so many different options.
What an incredible way to approach. I mean, this is the kind of controller and instrument that is gonna make you think differently about your notes and your approach.
And the key travel, the aftertouch, all that stuff combined, that just makes it a very innovative controller, as we said. I mean, to me that's awesome in so many ways.
Yeah, looking at the Lumatone.io, this is where you can. This is the company. This is where you can check them out. And I'm going to find out more about this bad boy.
Yes, indeed. Very cool.
The aftertouch that he was showing the example to it. Again, you can do these with your traditional MIDI keyboards, but the ability to do it at almost a 3D level. And
I think the amount of key travel also, because each hexagon is able to move down how much is like whatever the key travel is. It seems like a good amount of key travel, so that gives you a lot of expressive range. And once you get to the bottom, you can get additional beyond that. There's more aftertouch. That's another key factor there.
See, and they know their target audience here. I mean, obviously, any keyboard player is going to appreciate this kind of instrument, but for beat making, and the microtonal aspect of it alone, huge. And yeah,
Well, the fact that every key is a MIDI trigger also, so you can anything that you could do with MIDI, you could do with this. So for sure.
I'm an artist. I want
Yeah,
a
yeah.
discount.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Order a few. Order a couple. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Hey, they don't mention the price, but
yeah. No, they usually wouldn't.
I had a feeling this was not going to be a cheap one. That's as
Nope.
expensive as my Phantom.
That doesn't say $1.49, does it?
No. But considering when you consider all these keys and the amount of work that has to go in to make that kind of aftertouch sensitivity and all of that,
Oh
the
yeah.
price is not bad. If they start selling more of them and it becomes a popular controller, you'll see that price go down. Plus, there's always like next gen. So, from the looks of it, they're pushing out a new batch. So it's possible you might be able to get an older generation for a little more reasonable of a price.
So we've looked at a couple of different instruments in the past couple of weeks here, and I want each one of them. I mean, they all, they're all new style of things, and very cool in the way that that each one has its own way of kind of reimagining its own space.
And again, it gives you a different approach. Like he mentioned,
Yeah.
it's like a guitar approach on a keyboard-like instrument. Which the last couple of things we've looked at, the Harp G last week.
Yep, exactly.
Same kind of concept where it's half keyboard with a guitar kind of approach to it.
And it reminded me very much of the Chapman stick in terms of the play style, where you're playing with all of your fingers. You're not plucking with this hand and fretting with the other hand. You can be actively hitting notes with all of your fingers all the time.
Yeah, and both of them.
That's a key factor
both
too.
of them have a feel of like a 3D controller. When
Right.
when you're not just going left to right and you're able to go forward and backwards and left to right, it allows for a different form of expression.
Absolutely. A whole different feel.
I love
Very
controllers
cool.
like that.
Yep. And we've had, like I said, we've had a couple recently, and that's for sure a winner. I would love to see that one.
That's one that I could see the AI like complementing with like something like a Lumatone. I could see a powerful tool there.
Yeah, I would have to look into the stats there to see. I would love to even like hook up something like that to the computer. And not that that's necessarily laid out or sized properly for full computer keyboard stuff, but for video game stuff, having that many buttons to be able to say, I want this button is going to be that's a Q and that's a W and this is a whatever and this is a whatever, and you could like lay it out anywhere you want, and you could just have each one same thing color coded so that you can just have everything laid out.
I could see future versions of that where like the top of the keys are LEDs and you could, you could put icons so that way like this key is this and this key, custom keyboard where you put your letters wherever the hell you want.
Because now that I have seen a keyboard like that for the computer, where it is just every key is an LED on top, and you can just have it your own color, have it your own icon even on each key. It's not super high res, screens on each key. But when it comes to the musical instrument version, if you're going to be hitting hard some of those keys, like as opposed to a computer keyboard, although we've seen some people who type hard, so we know that computer keyboards take a beating too.
we work with one of the most keyboard beating.
When you do it with hammers. But yes, it happens. I mean, it happens to all of us. There's times where I've had people tell me, don't type angry, because they could hear that I was mad just because the keyboard was, almost bouncing off the desk from the like, no. Don't send it. Don't send it.
Tell them they should hear you play when you're on a drum machine.
Yeah. So, I'll get this out on the drum machine later when I get home. But, we've got the percussive organ at the moment, though. That's the one who's hooked up over there.
And that's a good patch to bang with.
Yep. Although not too hard, because, then the whole upfront percussiveness is too much. But I do like the sound of it, though. It's a good one. But yeah, with the Lumatone, we would definitely We get all kinds of dangerous with that because, again, it just opens up so many different possibilities. You're not as limited as you are, but at the same time, like, you don't look back at a keyboard and go, "Oh man, it's not a Lumatone." You know, it's like there's still stuff that we can do with a regular keyboard. But keep it in the back of your mind that is, you know, there are other options out there.
I'm starting to feel like my keyboard's just plain Jane.
Yeah. But remember, you know, there's a lot of stuff you can do with that. There's plenty of action in this here keyboard. You can make all kinds of whatever.
No, I will spend the rest of my life finding the action on that thing.
Absolutely.
So,
and I've gotten to like this one too.
So to go towards the AI side, you know, after a controller like that, again, I'm thinking like, how can that kind of controller complement good AI music software? And the one that I'd mentioned, who has you know, 5 AI apps designed for music.
Nice.
These are the kind of programs and things that I'm thinking these new controllers mixed with technology like this really are going to open up new types of music.
Yeah, and again, it's happening so fast that staying on top of the stuff, like, you know, you can take a couple days off and you come back and you're like, wait, did I miss 3 weeks worth of stuff? You know, because it's like things could really be happening at that pace at this time.
Right now it is.
And it's only going to get faster.
Yeah. So
time to be on board.
This one is from I Am MLX Legend.
Basically, I Am Legend, but with an X instead of the E in the beginning of Legend.
I Am Legend with an X.
5 AI apps that'll make you a better musician.
Yeah, let's take a look at what he's got.
Are 5 dope AI apps that every musician and artist needs in their music production workflow. And I know what you're thinking as soon as I said that. AI is going to replace me. Oh my gosh. Great Scott. If you're a musician or an artist of any kind who thinks AI is going to replace you, you probably shouldn't be an artist to begin with. This video is sponsored by Melody Studio, the melody generating application powered by AI from the same people who made Lyric Studio that decided lyrics were just not enough. No amount of technology should ever keep you from doing the thing that you love, no matter how advanced it gets. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be another dinosaur just like everybody else in the music industry, stuck in the past. And so now I'm gonna show you how I implement these 5 different applications in making music, mixing and mastering the music, getting artwork for that music, and then releasing it to the masses. So these are the 5 different apps. You have ChatGPT, Lyric Studio, Melody Studio, DALL-E 2, and Lander. Rather than using them to just totally overwrite my input as a creative in the process, I'm gonna use them more so as assistive tools, which is what they should be used for in the first place. I'll leave some timestamps down below if you want to skip ahead around to the different applications in this video. Let's go ahead and start with application number 1, ChatGPT. This is what's called a language model AI that can generate new ideas and suggestions on just about any topic you can think of, including music. Now, most musicians I've seen on YouTube that use this tool mostly just ask it, hey, write some lyrics for me. Write me lyrics for a song about making a lot of money. Money in the bank, feeling rich and fly, making moves, I'm never saying goodbye. You're eliminating yourself, okay? Instead of taking that easy route, let's use ChatGPT to make us better songwriters by asking it about some potential themes we can write about. What is love? What is love? It is a multifaceted concept and can mean different things to different people. Can you give me 3 examples? So we have romantic love, platonic love, self-love. Ooh, that's a good one. So I'm gonna actually ask it if it can come up with metaphors for each of these different types of love. Love is a mirror reflecting one's own self-worth and the appreciation for who they are. It's like you're my mirror. What are some uncommon positive and negative aspects of self-love? Increased confidence, better boundaries, improved mental health. And then we have the negative aspects, which is narcissism, isolation, and rigid thinking. So we're gonna take what we learned here from ChatGPT and bring it on to our next application. But before I do that, I just wanna ask you kindly, if you find this video to be helpful to you at all, or even entertaining, just take 2 seconds for me and leave a like on this video. Leave a comment down below letting me know which of these tools may be your favorite, or what other kind of AI tool you'd like to see in the music production process. I'll give you some time, go ahead. I need that engagement, buddy. Let's move on. Unlike ChatGPT, in my opinion, this can be used to generate lyrics or songs that are not so generic. The reason being because Lyric Studio is able to detect what type of song you're writing, what genre you're writing in, and it will adjust some of the words or slang terms to help you write a song that better fits whatever genre you're writing in. Now, this is important because let's say you're a rapper who's a little bit more edgy. If you ask ChatGPT to do this for you, it's gonna give you some Dr. Seuss poem, something like that. Money in the bank, feeling rich and flying. Whereas Lyric Studio, I've had it give me lyrics, you know, saying stuff like turn around, shake it, big booty, and stuff like that, bro. Now, it's got many different customizable features that'll help you overcome your writer's block, from how many syllables you want in your line to which word you want to rhyme with, even down to how wacky the lines that it gives you are. Yes, there is a wackiness meter. I've already made a few videos on Lyric Studio, so you can check those out here. But let's come up with some quick ideas using our theme from ChatGPT in Lyric Studio. This is gonna be our R&B song about self-love and narcissism, testing the limits of AI, you know what I mean? All right, so right off the bat, in the right-hand side, we're gonna have a list of different lines we can start our song out with if we don't have ideas ourselves. I see the world through different eyes. Now we'll get a new suggestion that rhymes with eyes, and every day I see the same thing. Let's say, and every day it's the same. As you can see, we're kind of using the lines as inspiration, not necessarily always picking the line, but we can, you know, switch things around if we want to. NPCs keep wasting time. Non-playable characters keep wasting time because I'm the main character in my story. And this kind of speaks to the narcissism, you know? And now this next one, I actually want to customize so that we can get our syllable count to match up with, and every day it's the same. So that's 8 syllables. So we'll go to settings, we'll go to 6 to maybe 9 syllables, the wackiness there, and we'll do a new suggestion. NPCs wasting my time, can't live to my acclaim. Can't live to my acclaim. Call the narcs and tell them I'm on the borderline. And if nobody listens, we'll run out of time. No time to hug, no time to give. Ooh! Now you notice once I got rolling, the ideas just started flowing out, and this is how you should be using these tools. Not to just give you all the lines to feed you everything, but to kind of spark and light that fire beneath your booty, that creative juice that you need. Get it boiling deep down, you know? Okay, so we've generated some lyrics to our song with Lyric Studio. Now we move on to the sister program, Melody Studio. Melody Studio is a similar service to Lyric Studio. It's made by the same people, so the user interface is going to be really familiar to those who have used that service before. This is going to be for those people who have trouble coming up with melodies, something that I don't really suffer too much from. But it's useful to even people like myself because, listen, I am stuck inside of a box, my own little creative box at the time. So using something like Melody Studio to inspire new types of melodies I wouldn't have otherwise thought of and help expand my creativity as an artist, but also help me craft better songs. Now, Melody Studio doesn't only come up with melody ideas for you. It also has a built-in chord progression generation feature. So if you have yet to even produce your song for the lyrics that you're writing, which is the case for some people, you can get ideas for chord progressions of that song that you can then take to your DAW, produce, and then use the melodies that you get from Melody Studio to match those progressions that you also got Melody Studio, and we can just build from there. Let me show you a little bit how it works. And this is our sponsor for today's video, so huge thank you to Melody Studio. You guys should definitely check them out, and here's why. I'll just copy our first verse. So this will be verse 1. And then we're just gonna go ahead and paste our lyrics. Now you see at the top of each line, you're gonna have an add chords feature where you can add different chords from our chords window on the right-hand side. You can also choose to generate new progressions for this particular line. And you can add these different chords as you select different lines here in your song. First and foremost though, I do wanna set the different parameters for our songs. E flat major, let's go. New progression. So basically once you click each of these, it's gonna correlate to your line here. So I want to put that right here actually. Even if you don't know a thing about music production or music theory, just cycle through the different chords. You don't have to know what it means. You don't have to know how to read it. Just listen to it. Click it and listen to it and see which ones you like. Hey! Now that we have a really nice, luscious chord progression, I'm gonna go ahead and switch to melodies. and we select the line that we're on, and all we do is tap new melodies. From here, it's going to generate melodies for us. Now to preview this, all I'm going to do is click on the melody itself. I like this one too. I see the world through different. Let's see. We're just going to go to our line, and we have the different lengths of each note or each word that we're saying right here. So we could choose to extend them if you want to. We can move them around. So if I shorten this and I move it over here, it's going to put my C word in a different rhythm, which is nice. It's a nice customization. All right, let's duplicate this. Let's just go ahead and move it down, and we'll just change the lyrics here. So now we just need a melody for these in-between lines, and then one to resolve right here. What kind of chord progression can we get? So now let's go to melodies and generate one for this. Every day it's the same. Let's go ahead and record some of this. But first, we're gonna need a beat. Whoa, 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 whoa. I see the world through different eyes. Every day it's the same. Woo! Go. One, two, three, four. I see the world through different eyes, and every day it's the same. NPCs keep on wasting my time, can't live up to my acclaim. Oh, this is gonna be sick. This is gonna be sick.
Someone called him Knox, and I tell him that I'm on a borderline, and if nobody out there listens, we running out of time. Call him Knox, and I tell him I'm on a borderline, and if nobody out there listens.
If you want a deeper dive into what Lander offers, you can check out a few of these videos here. But all we need to do is take the song that we've written and recorded already and put it into Lander's AI mastering service. Now, most people might not know this, but even though Lander is a paid service, they do offer a free tier that you can subscribe to. This free tier, I believe, gives you 2 free masters per month. So technically, it can be a free service, but you're going to have to be really careful with what songs you master. So we're gonna find our song here, safetravels.wave. This is the export. Now we go ahead and upload this to Lander here. And from there, the AI is going to scan our track and determine what's gonna be the best EQ, the best mix, the best kind of vocal chain of sorts that it's gonna add to our song entirely. All right, preview's complete. Let's listen. Here's the original.
That I'm on a borderline, and if nobody out there listens, we running.
Master.
I'm caught a Knox, and I tell them I'm on a borderline, and if nobody out there listens, we running out of time. No time to love, and no time to live, no time to hug. zeros and a 7. I saw your love's a lie. I'll just be alone in heaven.
What do we need next? Artwork for the release. And to generate this artwork, we're going to be using DALL-E 2. DALL-E 2 is a powerful AI tool that can help you generate images for your album covers just by typing in what you want it to make. What would be a good cover for this? So it's about self-love. It's about being narcissistic. Telephoto shot of a man walking down a lonely road at night with street lights on, with a mushroom for a head in the style of an oil painting. What we get? What do we get? That's actually kind of sick. That's actually kind of sick. I think this might be my favorite one though. Put the little title right here. Just customize it a little bit, you know. Of course, you're gonna come into Photoshop, put my little logo on there and everything. All right, so file, we're gonna save that as a copy. And there is our cover from DALL-E 2. So, in conclusion, it's important to remember that AI can never replace the creativity of humans because AI will never have the ability to live the lives that we live or feel the things that we feel. I may eat these words later when AI becomes a sentient being. So what are you waiting for? The links are down below. Check them out. You too. What you waiting for? You still watching this video? At least leave a like.
Really like me.
Oh,
I
yeah.
like him.
Good style, good style. And very cool. Getting through all the tools.
That was yeah, that was great to actually see his workflow through those. That melody generator, really cool. Definitely going to be checking that out.
Oh, yeah.
And all of those tools. I'm not surprised that he started with the lyrical AI tools because you know we've seen that for like the lyric generators. You know, they've been there for a long time. Some people will literally just go and generate lyrics to sing to. But I like how he showed that you can get nudges of words from this technology, and when you're feeling them, it can just light a lyrical fire under your ass.
Absolutely. Not only that, but then there's the other side of it where you have people that have tons of lyrics but might not be able to feel, let's say, the timing of how to get it to work in a song or know what the chord progression should be and things like that. So with these tools, it doesn't, you know, you could do all of them with the AI, but you can also, if you have any part of it already covered, these AI tools can get you past whichever parts you're getting stuck with. Because some, you know, different people will have different things that, like you said, that'll have their specialties. Somebody, they write lots of words, but they don't necessarily get them to be musical. They're more of a lyricist as opposed to a, you know, full songwriter, let's say. Somebody else might be the other way.
I like how some of those AIs were genre focused. So,
Sure.
you know, if you're bringing your words in and you're nudging the AI towards like a certain genre and it's thinking that way, again, it's a complementary tool.
Yeah. And one of the big things there is, again, prompt engineering, or coming down to how to talk to the AI to get it to give you what you're looking for. And, you know, if you want it to be, you know, country, you start out by giving it a role. You know, you tell it like, you know, you are a country music writer, you know, or you're, you know, an 8-time Grammy winning, whatever. You know, like you can, you know, tell it
in the style
its role.
of Garth Brooks.
Exactly. Or in the style of, you know, Garth Brooks and somebody else. Like if you wanted to get aspects of a couple of different people, you could mash them together and get a whole new style that combines, you know, aspects of two different people, for example. Even if that
Garth
style never
Brooks
existed.
and Carrie Underwood have a musical baby.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of thing. And the AI can do that sort of thing most likely because it can find things that are signature, so to speak, or recognizable from one person's style, if they have a definitive style, and then you know, other aspects from somebody else who has another definitive style, and you can get a nice little blend as long as there's something complementary between them. They could also be very clashing and not work out at all, but it all depends on how it comes out.
And I like how like the AI tools for musicians that he showed there went from like conception of a song to, oh, I've got the song together, now let's make an album cover, because you know that's where like the image generation, today's album covers are probably going to be getting made from AI. Good prompts, and the artist finds something that fills that visuals.
Yeah. Well, even the artwork that I have here for the for the backgrounds on what we're doing here, these ones on the side here, there, even those are the way that they came around, and just the fact that you can just loop them and have them in there. It's very cool, the fact that they're all there.
And they're
But when I was
influenced.
and they're influenced, yeah. But some of them, just doing full album covers too, where I was able to just I gave it kind of whether it's the size or the theme or whatever that I wanted to go with, and just made an album cover from there. In order to and I made hundreds. So like I gave you access to the folder, so I mean we can actually look at a bunch of those at some point. But some of them are more like they started to have what looked like text, or its attempt at text, like not real letters, but just there would be words in an album here, and sometimes you'd even see like what would look like a parental advisory sticker, even though it's not even a real album. So how would it have a sticker? But just it knows that that's something that it's seen
and
on
that's
album
because,
covers.
And it's because it's extracting.
Yep.
The
What it
video
learned
we're going to be
from.
looking at later when it comes to copyright.
Yep.
This is where like the whole lawsuits and litigation is coming from, where
Yep.
you see elements of images being brought into the AI.
Yep, and that's where it depends which AI you're using, and they're starting, as you said, to change the laws and do different things based on what they're trying to come up with for the AIs. They have a lot of things are happening so fast that they really have to stay ahead of it.
So that was a great example of 5 tools that artists can use to help with their process.
Yeah, very
This
cool.
guy's, he's got tons of good material. Check him out on YouTube.
Hmm.
I am Legend with an X.
Very cool.
And he does cover, like songwriting tips. I mean, he really goes all over.
Hmm.
My favorite kind of YouTube channel.
Absolutely, definitely. And we are chock full of stuff for today. Like most of it is whether it's AI stuff all around, or whether it's it's mostly AI stuff. Most of it music and artwork related. But again, the AI can be useful in so many different ways now, whether it's programming or artwork or cover art or songs or lyrics or whatever. So many different options.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep up at this point. Like
Yeah.
tonight we're playing catch up because we've been looking at a whole bunch of stuff. But who knows, by next week there might be twice as much stuff to look at.
Exactly. What were you thinking next?
Well, this voice changer actually is another one that's AI driven. Amazing samples. Like they are making people sound like movie stars. All those deep fakes that you've been seeing out there, this is the technology that's, and this is one that I'm sure we're gonna see like get questioned, and where it's viable and where people are going to abuse it. This is a discussion that we're starting to have as the tools are getting this good. And this is the one that comes from Michael Fair. I love this channel. If you guys, any of you who are into OBS and like advanced techniques with OBS, go find him on YouTube. He will help you to sort out a lot of those OBS mysteries.
Nice.
And point you towards like killer software to use with it.
Very cool.
So this is the one that I was playing with yesterday. You'll be seeing more of this in action because I've got it set up.
Nice. Let's check it out.
Voice changer can change your life.
I find your lack of cooking skills disturbing.
I'm just hard boiling eggs. What are you doing, you weirdo?
But where do you find a good voice changer that's gonna allow you to use well-known voices like this?
We have an incredibly rare and special sighting today. This absolutely amazing beast is captured in his wild habitat. You can plainly see that he takes no guff from that string and shows it who's boss. And here you see the amazing creature showing off its pouncing skills. Notice the fluffy tail used for balance.
Or creative fun voices like this.
Smitty Wormity Eckerman Jensen. He was #1. With these spiky cleats, anything is possible.
Or maybe even create voices of your own. Well, I'm gonna show you today, so you know what? Let's get to it! Hello, my YouTube friends. The voice changer I'm gonna show you today is called Voice AI. There's a link in the description down below so you can check it out for yourself. And yes, you can try it for free. It's totally easy to set up and use, so let me show you. We're gonna go to this page right here and you can see download now. All you have to do is click that and it will start downloading. And we can go ahead and click on it. It will bring up the install and you just click I agree. And then it'll bring up the location where it's going to install and you can go ahead and just click install. It takes a few moments for this to run through. And once it is finished, you can just click finish. It will automatically launch it if you have that radio selected. Then you just want to go ahead and create an account with a valid email address. And then you just get the actual code from the email that they send you. And once you're finished, you're going to go ahead and come to this page where it's going to ask you to go ahead and start. And the next one, you're going to go ahead and select the microphone that you're going to be using. And then when you click next, you're going to start training your voices. And once you're finished training, it'll give you a little demo on how the voices work. But you could just click finish and I'll show you how you can go ahead and kick off training anytime you want if you just want to get started. So this is what you're going to see when you finally get into Voice AI. And really you do want to train your voices. That is the difference between using faster or better. So if you don't train your voices, needless to say, they're going to sound pretty poor. The higher you go on this list, the more delay there is, but the better your voice is going to sound. So I really do recommend that you train your voice. If you didn't do it when you first log in, you can go ahead and click here and go to voice training. And then it's really simple. You want to set the volume on your microphone. They want it to be 75%. Needless to say, mine isn't quite there. Next, I'm just going to click next. And you start by recording 3 seconds of silence so that Voice AI can analyze your acoustic environment. So let's do that. Then you record your voice ID and you read the statement below, which is pretty much what most of this is going to be. So let's go ahead and do that. The long journey home took over a year. Elon second guessed traveling to Mars. And of course, there are 9 more of these that you have to run through. It really doesn't take that long, and it is well worth doing this. In fact, over and over again.
The more you train, the more you will actually hear a massive difference in how much better it can sound.
Let's take a look at some of the other settings. So we go up here to the gear, and we've got our voice universe. It takes us to a web page that is going to show you all of the voices that you can get and more. Then over here we have settings. So in general, you can start it with Windows. You can start it minimized in the system tray, and you can minimize it to the system tray when it's closing. And that just means that it will stay running down in your system tray, and you can update it right here. If we go into audio, it basically allows you to select where you want your audio to come from. It wants to have about a 75% volume when talking. Mine is obviously lower. It would probably sound better if it was higher, but I don't want to adjust the camera volume on here. I have it set the way I like it. Your output volume obviously right here. Now the audio pass-through. This one right here means that you're going to be able to get the audio input in another system like OBS when you don't have the actual voices turned on. So this one's kind of important. Singing mode allows you to sing and it helps it control the way the audio works much better. Volume boost, pretty self-explanatory. Reduces breaths and noise reduction. 2 things that you generally want, especially if you're in a noisy environment. Now your noise gate is going to basically set the threshold at which background noise is not picked up in your microphone. If you have a very, very sensitive microphone that picks up a lot of background noise, you may want to bump this up higher. Otherwise, you could probably leave it set the way it is, and you can do a voice lock mean, and this is pretty interesting. So you can lock it so it will prevent it from getting pitchy. When you adjust the pitch of your voice, it can either take that into account or not take that into account,
and you can actually set the hertz at which you want it kind of locked. And this can really help to increase how good some of these voices will sound. You can go into shortcuts and set your shortcut to turn the voice changer on and off and record. And you can even have it select a random voice. This is obviously going to be useful if you're going to live stream with this. You can set the voice that you want and then just turn it on and off with hotkeys. And then the meta model training you can set to go on and train your voice all the time so that when you come back you don't have to go through the whole thing. This is kind of nice. Now I already told you that this will change the voice from faster, which is basically immediate, but also pretty low quality, somewhere in the middle. Once you have your voices trained pretty high, you can do that. And then better means it's going to have the most delay, but the voice is actually going to be as high quality as possible. Now, some people will find this to be extremely annoying when they're live, because obviously the voice isn't going to match the mouth movement. And it really depends what sort of thing you're trying to accomplish. For video, this really isn't a big problem, because you can speak it and record it, and you can just dub it right over where you were speaking, and it won't be any problem whatsoever. However, on a live stream where people can obviously see you moving your mouth, and then, 5 seconds later the voice actually comes through, some people might find that to be exceptionally annoying. Personally, if you put on a mask or you're using something like Snap Camera, I don't really think it's that big a deal, but some people have different viewpoints on this than I do. You can just click here to change the voices. You see I have a couple loaded up already that I used for the intro of this video, but you can go over here to all, and you can set it up here to top quality or alphabetical or recently used, recently trained, recently added, or recommended, and it will kind of recommend to you the voices that you might like or might not like. And you can also go up here and search. So if we wanted a robot voice of some sort, we can go in here and check and see what we've got. Some of these have not been tested very well, others have. And most of them obviously are voice captures from some sort of robot that's out there already. So we can try the battle droid. You can click this right here and it will play it.
This is a standardized audio sample to demonstrate voice stability and tone without any voice acting.
And any of these will give you that same kind of thing.
This is a standardized audio sample to demonstrate voice.
A lot of these were trained by people who may or may not have a particular understanding of how this works.
This is a standardized audio sample to demonstrate.
Let's go ahead and get the battle droid and we'll train that one up. And you can see once you do that, it takes a little while for these voices to train on your system. Right here it says it's training, and once it's done we'll go ahead and check it out and see what it actually sounds like.
This is what the voice sounds like when it's completely trained and ready to go. So as you can see, you really need to actually take a listen and train your voice on how you want to portray each character. The closer you get to an actual impression, the better it's going to sound. It also gets better as you push that dial up a bit. But of course, this introduces a lot more delay.
Let me quickly show you how to add this into OBS. I already have a camera in this scene, and I can just right click on that camera and go to properties. Then what I'm gonna do is scroll down where it says audio devices, and I'm using a custom audio device. So if yours is unchecked, go ahead and check use custom audio device. Then I'm gonna drop this down and I'm gonna select microphone array, voice AI audio cable. And there we go. So now when I turn on the voice in voice AI, I'm gonna hear the voice. When I have it off, I'm gonna hear my regular voice. Now, if you wanted to add this over top of a scene, you didn't want to add a camera, you can easily do that as well. All you have to do is click the plus, go to audio input capture, and then go ahead and drop this down and select the microphone array voice AI. Then when you click OK, you're going to add this to your system and it's going to add that voice. It's really that simple to add this to OBS or pretty much any other application like Zoom or Discord or wherever you want.
Let me give you some idea of how much delay there actually is. So let's bring this up, and what I'm gonna do is we've got Samuel Jackson here, and we'll turn the voice changer on.
So now I'm using the Samuel Jackson voice, and what you can see is it doesn't start for quite some time after I start talking. Let's turn down the quality a little bit and see how much it affects the actual length of time it takes for you to hear the voice. So now when I'm talking, the question is the quality really taking a hit? And also, is it that much faster? Now let's say you wanted to actually adjust your video to match up with your audio. You can right-click on the video capture device, go into filters, then you go to render delay.
Now you want to put how much time you want to delay the actual video render. 500 is the most that you can do. I tried 200 here, and you're going to be able to see what that looks like.
Then you just add the render delay to hopefully match up with your voice.
Now I push that delay all the way to the 500 milliseconds, and we'll see what that looks like.
500 milliseconds is the longest that you can actually delay it. It gets it a lot closer, especially when you're using the medium settings, but I don't think it's close enough. So if you train your voice more and more, you can probably bump the quality down a little bit. It will work better, and you might be able to get your voice lined up pretty close.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump this down from 13 to 7.
We'll try it on number 7 and see how much closer we get. That seems to be working pretty doggone close. Is it perfect? No, but it's easily maskable, and I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger. Those who, Now
that was done after training the voice for a while and on number 7. It kind of shows you what you can do if you're willing to train it a lot and do a little bit of voice acting. I've adjusted the delay so it lines up with my voice. It's pretty good. Now every voice might actually change the amount of delay, but if it's close enough, especially if you're using something like Snap Camera for changes of faces and things like that, your audience is just gonna love it. It's gonna be more entertaining than it is annoying, especially if you're not using it all the time. If you're just using it on occasion to do a fun little bit, it's not going to be anything that aggravates your audience. It's going to enhance your live stream. And if you do videos, well, imagine the intros that you can do with something like this to make it sound like you actually have some famous Hollywood star introducing your video. What are your favorite voices? Let me know in the comments. Now this software is still in beta, so there could be a bug or two. Also, in my experience, the voices sound a lot better when you train the voice machine a lot and have your audio set up properly. Background noises are an absolute killer on this one. Once you train the voices, if you use this setting around 7 and the 500 millisecond render delay in OBS, I find that it lines up pretty nicely and is totally usable for a live stream. But you know what? You let me know what you think. If you want to see another voice changer option, you should check this video out. And if you're always looking for tools, tips, and tricks that can help make you a better live streamer or YouTuber, subscribe to the channel. My name is Michael Fire Jr. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.
Pretty cool, huh?
Very cool. I could see having some fun with that. Yeah, the voice acting part would definitely be a lot of fun. And anybody can do it, honestly. I mean, it's one of those things where you just have to get into it and just not be afraid to, be the character for a minute there and just go with it.
Oh, and like he mentions, with SnapCam, the combination of the two can really open up a lot of possibilities.
Yeah.
I like his suggestion on the using OBS with the render delay.
Yeah, definitely.
To get it closer, and bringing it down to that like 7 quality, it is pretty damn close.
Yeah, and again, that was a little bit of voice training you had to do to get to that level, and a little bit of voice acting when you did it. But at the same time, it came out, like you said, very close, and it also saves a whole lot of post-processing, getting the sync right later in the video editor, because of the fact that it does all of that for you already with that little delay. It would probably be a little weird because if it was at a half a second, like you said, then as he's saying each word, there's literally a half a second before it goes into the video. I mean, if you're monitoring yourself, then you'd be getting it back later, like you said.
You don't want to monitor yourself with this. Right. It will
It'll drive you nuts.
turn your brain into jelly. You'll be hearing a different voice of yourself after you say something.
Yep.
That can really mess your head up.
Exactly. But yeah, some very cool stuff there.
Yeah, this is a channel I highly recommend everybody go check out. He's the one who showed me how to get Snapcam working again. You know, that's the video that shows how to bring Snapcam back to life.
Right, right.
Yeah, I actually had to choose between 3 videos from him. Like I was gonna do all 3 tonight. I was like, oh no, we'll stick to 1 for now. But like his content.
Yeah, we'll be back for sure.
I can go through. I go through it weekly. I mean, everything here for the stuff we do and really taking OBS to the next level. And he did try to find a Snapcam replacement. Like he did the heavy lifting for me when it came to research.
Yeah, I see one right there. Snapcam replacement. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was an interesting one, but unfortunately, nothing else competes for the way Snapcam works. So thank God, like he found that hack because.
Until you guys mentioned that, like the last thing I had heard was, "Yep, say goodbye forever," and that's why I uninstalled it. But like you said, it's possible to get it back, and right there was the video for it.
Yeah, he's brought it back to life. And another interesting thing with that particular voice AI software, it'll work with anything because it creates a virtual cable. So when you install it, there's a new microphone that's virtual, and it routes all its audio to it. So it doesn't matter if you're using Zoom or anything else.
And once you have it selected, you can bypass it or use it, and that way they can just toggle it on and off very easily.
Yep. Again, it feels like Snapcam. Like Snapcam makes a virtual camera, Voice AI makes a virtual audio mic, and between those two, you can virtually be anything.
Exactly. And it is kind of fun too. Like, you know, when we had Snapcam going for a while there, you know, just everybody, you know, pop into a different face all of a sudden, like, or you know, get the long wizard beard going or whatever. You know,
I've got
there's
some of
fun
those.
ones.
I've got some of those recordings when we were first playing around with Snapcam, and
Yeah.
there's
I had
one
the
where
one-
there's like 9 boxes, and everybody's face is changing.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. One of those days. I like the dragon where you just like open your mouth and you get the fire. Like,
Yeah, and I've seen you as Shrek.
Yep.
And an avatar.
And an avatar, yeah, the blue one. And the other blue one, not avatar, but
Smurf.
no, yeah, I'd be one big Smurf. Not just Papa Smurf, but Big Daddy Smurf. Let's see. It'll come to me later. I can see the character already, but I can't think of the name. It'll come to me. But
Well,
in the meantime,
looking at that and the whole virtual cable solution, the way that it does it, which means it can route to any app. VB meters. One of our videos is all about setting up VB meters so that you can route different audio cards all into one channel that you can route into Zoom, Discord, anything. You can consolidate multiple audio devices and turn them into an output, which it basically gives you a virtual mixer. And I'm constantly recommending that to, you know, those who are coming in here and they want to be able to play guitar and send a signal, and they want to have a mic, and they need to be able to mix those into something and get them into Zoom. And sometimes your headset or your mic and what you're using is coming from different audio devices. And Windows and Macs, when it asks for a microphone, it's asking for one input. So you can't be like using your audio card that's getting the guitar with the microphone. The operating system is basically only allowing one thing to be the microphone.
Right.
VB meters allows you to route that audio device and anything else mixed with the microphone and produce a digital consolidated signal.
And that's the other important point is the mix, because if you can mix each one individually, because you might have it where the guitar is, you know, at 100% volume, let's say, and the voice is at like 30%. So you really need to bring the guitar way down to get them to where they're, you know, balanced better if you're going to try to do both at the same time. Sometimes you do need to bring the one that's you know, the one that sounds great and is full volume. Sometimes you need to bring that one down in order to match where the other one is, or to where you can get the other one to a point where they work well together. It's just a matter of, you know, figuring out where those levels are for each individual setup that you have, and how close you're going to be, because it's a lot more when you're right there versus back here. You know?
Wow.
Sorry.
No, actually, like I felt like whisper in my ear.
Yeah, I tried not to yell though. You get too close and you yell, that's no good.
No, not into a mic coming into a conference.
No.
I think this is the right one for, yes, the best Voicemeeter setup guide on YouTube. The Francois Studio. And I got to give this guy serious credit. I have been trying, you know, I've mentioned VB Meter like all the time over the last couple of years.
Yep.
I have been trying to find a good step-by-step that truly explained everything, and even I couldn't wrap my head around the best way to configure it for that. Like, I use this headset, I can route the audio, I actually have everything set up at this point to go through VB meters because of this video.
Now, the other one that we talked about a bit was ear trumpet, and that's the one where it's related, right? And that's the one that I have set up and also use that, and it's awesome for what we need it for.
Ear trumpet, I think, gets a mention in this one.
Nice.
If not in this one, in one of the other ones where the software is used in conjunction with ear trumpet. It's a couple of pieces of software to get a full-blown monitoring solution, mixing solution. I think he does mention it though.
Nice. Now the other blue cartoon character from Snapchat or Snapcam was Megamind.
Oh yeah, with the big head.
With the big head, yeah. The other blue one, because we did the Avatar one and that one. There were a bunch. There were a bunch.
That one works so good with you too.
You open up the eyes wide, they go, oh, because it's already magnified. It's good stuff.
So the Francois Studio, and this truly is the best Voicemeeter setup guide that I've come across yet.
Definitely worthwhile, just like.
Voicemeeter is widely known as one of the best PC apps to use, but it's so confusing that people don't even bother using it. Today I'm going to make this app seem so easy you won't even break a sweat. After installing Voicemeeter, you will have 3 versions of the app installed. Voicemeter, which is the base version of the app with minimal tools. Voicemeter Banana, which is the most popular version of the app. And Voicemeter Potato, which is the granddaddy of all 3 and bigger than the rest. That's what she said. We will be using Voicemeter Banana in this video, but don't worry, if you want to use a different version of the app, it works the same way for all 3, just with more or less virtual sources. We will also use the virtual audio cables, which is available for free on Voicemeter's website. It's very important that you listen to what I'm about to say. The first thing we're going to do is set our default playback device on our computer. But before you do it, watch me do it, because you will lose audio from this video when you change the source. So you need to know what you're doing prior to switching the source over. First, let's set up our output device. On the top right of the app is the A1 source. This is where we can select our output device. I will select my headphones with the WDM source. Next, I want to make sure that virtual inputs here have the A1 source toggled on. Now let's change our playback devices. Right-click the speaker icon on your desktop, select the sound settings, and then select the sound control panel. In the playback tab, we will right-click the Voicemeter input source and make this our default device. After that, we will right-click the Voicemeter aux input source and make this our default communications device. Once we've done this, our computer audio will be playing on the Voicemeter input source, and our communication audio will be playing on the Voicemeter aux input source. This means you will need to set the audio settings in apps like Discord to default. At least that's the easiest way to do it. The reason for this is we're separating our computer audio from our communication audio. So that means apps like Discord or communication apps will play through the Voicemeeter aux input, and that means other apps like video games will play through the Voicemeeter input. To make things easier, let's change the labels of the inputs to desktop and communications by right-clicking the titles to make sure we know what they are. Next, we can set up our microphone. Left-click on the first hardware input and select your microphone source. You'll want to disable the A1 button on this input so you aren't listening to yourself on the A1 source that we selected earlier. For the microphone output, you have two options. You can select B1 or B2. B1 is the Voicemeeter output, and B2 is the Voicemeeter aux output. I like to use B2, so that's what I will select. In the sound control panel, I will go to the recording tab, locate the Voicemeeter aux output source, and set this to the default device. If you're using the B1 source instead, be sure to select the Voicemeeter output instead of the Voicemeter aux output. Now that we've set the default recording device on our computer, we can go into every single one of our apps' audio settings and set the input device to default. This will default to using the correct Voicemeeter source that we set up. This also means that all the sources on Voicemeeter with B2 toggled will also play through your microphone. So make sure you only select B2 on inputs you want playing from your mic. You can adjust the mix of the output sources from the master section in the bottom right. Now we can take it even a step further and separate our music audio on Voicemeeter as well. To do this, we'll need to install Ear Trumpet and the virtual audio cables that I mentioned earlier. On the second hardware input of Voicemeeter, let's select the virtual audio cable. Let's then open Ear Trumpet from our hidden apps, find our music app, right-click, click the arrows, and then select the virtual audio cable. If you don't see your music app on Ear Trumpet, that's because you need to be playing audio from the app in order for Ear Trumpet to recognize it. SteelSeries made an app like Voicemeeter that's way easier to set up. Check it out here, you won't regret it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Yeah. Ear Trumpet was definitely killer.
He does mention Ear Trumpet, and it's really a power tool at that point, because with that whole auxiliary versus normal output, that's the thing that snagged me for the longest time when it came to BB meters. I was just thinking like input output and just focusing on the output to the default Windows audio.
Yep.
When you set the communication device to the auxiliary and you set the default audio to the main BB outs, you get that separation when you're using Zoom and those other apps where you hear what you need to hear over there, but you don't get bleed through between the two. And
right.
That was the big key that I had never understood until that
the other one,
step through.
The other one a lot of people miss is the one that he talked about at the beginning with the turning off the self-monitoring, where you'd be hearing when you're hearing yourself coming through, directly. So if you have other things coming through, you don't want to, you can kind of come through twice. Like you could end up having your desktop sound, so that now if you're communicating on Zoom, for example, you might get an echo to the people that you're talking to because their speech is going through your main sound, and you have your main sound coming back through as a mic input, for example. That's where you can get misconfigurations going on if you don't follow, you got to follow the signal path, and you got to kind of logically follow the way the connections need to go in order to make that work.
And if you do want to be able to monitor multiple combinations of audio, whether it's your local audio or whether it's audio that's coming in from something, being able to switch between those three channels of output, I can have the same pair of headphones on and switch to what combination of audio I'm listening to. That way, if I do need to see what my voice is sounding like over in Zoom, I can bring that up for a second, take a listen to it, and then turn it back off and go back to listening to the normal audio I want to hear without the echo.
Right.
So this guy, he is definitely, when it comes to BB meters and competitors, because he did mention there is another piece of software which I'm looking at, but considering how many years it took me to wrap my brain around BB meters, I'm not sure if I'm ready to jump onto the next solution. But
A lot of times they become more intuitive as time goes on, but again, it depends on where it's from, the source. If it's if the intention is for it to be easier to use, or if the intention is for it to be more useful. What I did notice with that one, I really liked when you mentioned the 3 different versions, where you had just the regular one, then you had the banana, and then you had the potato as the 3 different, with each one being progressively more advanced. And the banana being the one that I had looked at previously was very cool. It's like right in the middle, so there is a more advanced option or a more simplified version.
That is another thing when people I tell people go to VB meters and grab it. If they run off on their own and do it, it's a very confusing tier of software. The guy gives the software away. It's called, it's donationware. So nobody has to pay in order to use the software. But when you look at how useful it is, it's one of those ones where it's worth getting that extra support that you get with him. And with the VB meters basic, the VB cable, it just provides a nice, simple virtual microphone and auxiliary input. Banana brings in the ability to actually mix 3 channels worth and loads VSTs and has an EQ and some of the things that most podcasters, anybody who's actually wanting to massage that sound a little bit before it goes in, Banana is the go-to for most people. If you're actually going up to potato, you really are looking for advanced tools, additional EQ, but for the most part, the VST support and the ability to actually run that stuff with Banana, a lot of it you can do with the middle tier.
Yeah. And the middle tier is the one that I had worked with as well, which was, again, we did exactly what we needed, and then the ear trumpet on top of it was definitely awesome, especially if I had, sometimes I had 3 things going at the same time, so I'm, listening to something or monitoring something over there to make sure it's, all going fine, and then I have a video that I'm watching or listening to, and then there's also a conversation happening, so I can have, each one at its own volume just very easily by popping up ear trumpet and just, bring this one down, bring this one up, okay, now everything's where it should be.
Yeah, an ear trumpet really is a power tool. It's the mixer that should have came with Windows, and it really lets you set every audio input output at the application level.
Yeah.
I
very useful.
I needed to put ear trumpet finally on this machine because in order to get VST audio from Cakewalk, if I'm using one of the Cakewalk plugins, Easy Drummer or anything like that,
right?
The only way I can get that to route into Zoom and through VB meters is by going into ear trumpet, going to the Cakewalk sound channel, and setting it to take the input and route it to VB meters.
Right. And there were times where, if you're going from your keyboard to the computer and then to another keyboard or whatever, how much delay do you end up with in a chain like that? Or do you ever do it that way? Or is it always just from input to the machine or from the machine to the keyboard?
I haven't actually seen a lot of, when it comes to the sound getting routed virtually, the delay playing wise, I can play my keyboard and actually route it through the virtual mixer and hear my keyboard on my wireless headset, which is set to monitor the output. I can hear it here and play, and it doesn't affect my ability to play. So the latency is low enough that I can actually perform.
Nice. Yeah, because with some of it, like, the first time you try to connect something, if you don't have a latency check or whatever, and you just start playing, there could be a noticeable delay where if you are trying to play like doodle 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 doodle, something like that kind of speed, it's so much of a delay that it really does kind of mess you up where you're playing against what the timing is against what you're trying to play with delay like that. But it all depends on what you're trying to set up and how much delay there is in your setup. Most of the time I'm just doing, very simple stuff from here and just going directly from here into my board directly in. It's all, it's not even USB, the board. It's just going into the 1/8 inch line in.
And the delay might be worse depending on the driver mode, because I use ASO. So
Yep,
like
yep.
when it comes to my keyboard, I'm using the ASO drivers as fast as I can going in. If you are using Wasapi, you might get a millisecond to a second delay.
Yep. What's up, Bobby?
Yo, Bobby in the house.
Time to blow your mind some more.
Hey, the other night we blew the shit out of his mind, although he blew my mind back.
There you go.
It was reciprocal.
Yep. Had some good stuff going on back there. Always good to like find, whoever finds, good videos about things, we can check things out, always good. Sometimes it is things like that that controller that we just saw, the Lumatone controller. That was, as soon as we saw that was kind of a mind blower, because that's again a totally different instrument that doesn't have to obey the rules of a regular keyboard. You can play it like a regular keyboard, but you don't have to. You can play it very differently.
Oh, and I like an instrument with a rainbow look to it.
Oh yeah,
That screams Angified.
Yeah, and programmable, so that you can set it up in a different ways. That can be chromatic this way, or it can be this kind of a scale, or whatever. Yeah, I dig that a lot.
So one of the things on that voice AI we were looking at earlier that also caught my attention was the singing mode. Did you notice that, like in the settings, it had an option to say singing mode, where it would adjust the voice with the assumption that you might be singing, and it even had a little bit of a auto pitch option that would keep your pitch to focus. Well, that's this next video we're going to watch with the AI theme. This channel is definitely one of the definitive, just AI in general. This channel is definitely like on the ball and research and reporting it.
Love it.
And this is a video about AI being used for singing purposes, not just for simulating a voice, but simulating a voice, which I've been wondering for years how long before you get virtual singers. And from what I'm hearing, apparently it's already there.
Yeah, it already happened. Yeah, that's a good thing. I mean, yeah, in a way, like I said, it's how we use the tools is the question.
Yeah.
In some cases, it could be just to make an example of here's the line for somebody to use as an example to then put their vocal on top of, for example.
And that's why you're going to like this channel, because it goes into the discussion about like, how you use these tools, what's ethical, what's not. And, we're going to have to evaluate our ethics when it comes to this AI future that we're going into.
Yeah. Yeah, some interesting doors opening for sure.
Yep. And this is the singing hole, and same thing over at YouTube. And it is definitely a good resource for the AI development that is moving.
You got Angie's eyes behind you.
Oh, she's been smoking.
She's like, I got you. She's watching you.
She's always.
The singing hole. Yes, correct, Uni.
So this is how long until AI can replace a singer. It's already happening.
Yep.
Artificial intelligence. Two words that spark controversy between bubbling tech enthusiasts and fearful consumers. Will AI develop into a benevolent companion, or will it become a species-ending catastrophe? I don't know the answer. Those eventualities are just too far off in the future. But right now, we can talk about which work AI is stripping from voice professionals. Will AI ultimately replace singers? And how close are we to bringing Ronnie James Dio back from the dead? Welcome to The Singing Hole, where we examine how ordinary creatures create extraordinary sounds. Or today, how computers create extraordinary sounds that try to sound as extraordinary as humans. When we talk about a computer recreating a human voice, I like to think about it in three main categories. First, the speaking voice. Second, backing vocals, which are mostly sung vowels. And third, the lead vocal, complete with lyrics and dynamic expression. Let's dive into each of these categories and see what AI has done so far and what we might expect it to do next. At this point in time, most people on the planet have interacted with an AI voice assistant of some kind, whether it's Siri, Google Assistant, Alexa, or another type likely on your smartphone. It's incredible how advanced voice assistants are. But before we even talk about their actual vocal output, we have to note that advanced conversational AI is making use of several processes other than just voice synthesis. It uses speech recognition, machine learning, and natural language processing. And it has to decipher various dialects and jargon and select an appropriate response. Then, that response gets vocalized. In this video, we're just going to focus on that text-to-speech part, or the voice synthesis piece. How close can a computer get to sounding like a real person? When it comes to speech, AI can get freakishly close to sounding totally real. Google's Duplex Voice AI sounds so real, it was able to book an appointment for a haircut at a demo in 2018.
So how can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second.
Sure, Siri and Alexa still have a hint of robot in them, but if you heard a voice on the radio that's made by Syntheses.io, you might wonder who it is instead of what it is. Here's one example of a voice that was created by Syntheses.
It's without a doubt the most important revolution in the future of human communication and perception. It's analogous to the birth of the internet.
While perusing Syntheses' rather large voice library, I could still tell that many of the voices were AI and not human. Sometimes the intonation was off or there were small artifacts in the sound. The speaking voice synthesis company that currently wows me more than any other is called Play.ht. They have over 800 voices to choose from in 132 languages, which puts my 19 languages I've sung into total shame. You can also change the rate that the text is read at, shift the pitch or emphasis, remove or add pauses. The part that really gets me, though, is the voice cloning. That's right, cloning. Like Star Wars or Dolly the Sheep, but for voice. You can create custom AI voices with a shockingly small amount of data. Just listen to these examples.
The great thing about Play.ht is that you can clone your own voice or use existing high-quality voices. It is crazy good. You cannot tell if those are human voices or machine ones anymore.
The great thing about Play.ht is that you can clone your own voice or use existing high-quality voices. It is crazy good. You cannot tell if these are human voices or machine ones anymore.
Those last samples could fool me. You'd think an iconic voice like that would take a long time to recreate, right? For context, Susan Bennett read 4 hours per day, 5 days per week for an entire month to generate enough data for Siri. That was 2005. Many of the sentences she read seemed to make no sense. AI has come a long way since then. I became the voice of an AI called Speak With Me in 2017, and that required around 20 finished hours of data, and those sentences did make sense. Today, if you want to clone a voice with Play.ht, you can do it in as little as 30 seconds of data. That's ridiculous. 30 seconds of data, that's such a tiny sample size. To be fair, that probably wouldn't be the most realistic clone, so their website suggests using at least an hour of studio quality audio. I'm sorry, 1 hour? 1 hour of voice data? You can grab that from any podcast or talk show. You could clone my voice just by using audio from this channel. Does that freak me out? Yeah. To be honest, it does. It would be incredibly easy for someone to impersonate me, or impersonate someone much more important than me, like a political figure, and use that to spread misinformation. And that is terrifying. There's also the question of how AI will, not could, but will, put voiceover artists out of work. And while there still may be some dispute about whether Linza will put a visual artist out of work, there's really no dispute on whether or not AI will reduce VO jobs. That's the business model for companies like Syntheses and Play.ht. They aim to reduce costs for businesses that would hire lots of VO artists for things like educational videos and advertisements. I'm not here to argue the morality of the situation. I'm sure you all will do that just fine in the comments. However, I don't think that AI will ever completely replace the VO artist. I just don't see Budweiser hiring a voice clone for their 2025 Super Bowl commercial. And as much as I love Scarlett Johansson...
Hello, I'm here.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Samantha.
I think it's going to be a very long time before her voice has romantic relationships with 8,316 people simultaneously. That level of concurrent interaction and context-driven conversation requires much more processing power than we currently have available. All this said, overall, AI can replace voice in some cases already when it comes to speaking, and it's bound to improve and be able to replace humans more and more. But what about singing? Singing requires a greater range of pitch variation and dynamics. The vocal parts also tend to last longer than speech or be more sustained. There's a lot more variability, which makes it exponentially more difficult to copy. But that doesn't mean it hasn't been done. Hatsune Miku is one of the most well-known singing AIs out there. And she isn't just a voice. She's an adorable turquoise pigtailed virtual idol with more than 2.35 million subscribers on YouTube. 2.35 million, that's like twice as many as a charismatic voice. When just discussing Hatsune Miku's voice, though, it still sounds pretty robotic. That works for the particular style of music that she sings, which is very electronic, since the goal isn't to try to replicate a human's authentic sound. In my opinion, Dreamtronic's Synthesizer V has some of the most impressive singing voice synthesis out there. This Tokyo-based company does come close to sounding lifelike, and the voices can be customized to have different dynamics and even reflect different vocal registers, which kind of makes me nerd out, to be honest. Here's an example of one of their voices called Solaria.
I was following the eye, 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 was following the eye.
And even though it's good, it still isn't good enough to replace a live singer. And Dreamtronics knows that. This is why their marketing is different than the marketing we see with AI speech companies. Dreamtronic's website states, generate clean vocal tracks to nail any demo, and accelerate the prototyping stage of music creation, meaning that they intend their software to be used to help design a composition, but not be used as a final puzzle piece. However, there is software that's designed to be used as the final puzzle piece for certain types of vocals. Sample libraries and virtual instruments are tools that almost every modern composer uses. It's actually a little bit shocking to look at arguments for and against sample libraries and virtual instruments and compare them to arguments for and against AI today. Sample libraries and virtual instruments are made by collecting a large number of detailed recordings or samples from one performer. I worked with Impact Soundworks to create Charisma, a vocal virtual instrument that released last year. Here's an example of what Charisma sounds like in a song. Virtual instruments like charisma are indeed meant to be used instead of hiring a singer. And I'm totally okay with people using this software instead of asking me to record oohs and ahs for every project. I think it's pretty awesome to hear what composers come up with when they can mess around with all of the recordings and phrases I made. It's almost like we're in the same room collaborating together, and that sparks a new and different kind of creativity. One big difference you'll notice, though, is that vocal virtual instruments and sample libraries usually focus on just a few vowel sounds. This makes for excellent backing vocals or ambiance, but it doesn't work well for a lead vocal with lyrics. The stuff besides the lyrics, though, the entire band's sound, the musicians, that is replicable. AI has created a song that mimics an entire band's sound. An organization in Toronto recently used Google's AI program, Magenta, to analyze Nirvana's style and works and compose a new song. The result is called Drowned in the Sun, but it should be noted that the only thing not created by the AI are the vocals, which are performed by Nirvana tribute band frontman Eric Hogan. While many fans were appalled that an AI would try to recreate Nirvana, others were enthusiastic. And many songwriters are enthusiastic too, even though AI could threaten some songwriters' jobs. On the flip side, AI could make it easier to compose and create music that sounds more refined on a cheaper budget. So in many ways, it could level the playing field for composers who have yet to make it big. There's even a competition to help encourage composers to improve their use of AI, called the AI Song Contest. MOGII7ED, a California-based team of musicians, scholars, and AI experts, won the 2021 competition with the track Listen to Your Body Choir, a song that sounds both human and machine-made. And I have to say, I genuinely enjoyed listening to that track and would listen to it many times again.
Listen to your body choir. What's your vibration? What's your vibration? Where are we? What's your vibration?
But does it reach the great vocal prowess of Pavarotti? Just imagining if AI could create something on par with great voices who are now dead fills me with a weird mixture of giddiness and concern. It would be amazing if Prince were still creating music. Like, whoa. But what if someone created an AI to mimic Dio and then called it a long-lost album, and we were all duped into believing Dio had made that music himself? But then I have to pause and consider, if I love the music and it moves people in glorious ways, if it isn't actually by Dio, but the results are the same and truly great, would it matter if it was actually made by an AI? There are all kinds of moral and legal questions raised by the thought that an AI could accurately mimic a famous singer. Questions which we need to consider and answer now. Because just last year, an AI did, quote, resurrect a famous singer. Anita Mui, considered the Asian Madonna, died in 2003, but last year, Tencent Music used AI to recreate her vocal handprint and generated a new song which received over 100 million plays. 100 million. That's 100 million plays that weren't given to a living human singer.
愿你永远不会受到伤害，你会值得所有的偏爱，你是生命中最好的安排，是最特别的存在。
But maybe that's okay. I honestly don't know if it's okay or not, and maybe we should consider the art of designing the AI that created this maybe computer scientists should be recognized as great artists as well. I personally think that many of the great artists of tomorrow will embrace new technology and become a combination of both performer and AI, like Holly Herndon. Holly, who holds a PhD from Stanford's Center for Computer Research in Music and Acoustics, started using vocal software to create her first album in 2012. She expanded that software with her second album, and in 2019, she released Proto, the world's first mainstream album made with AI. The AI in the album provides backing vocals and a chorus. Note, that's the backings again, not the lead. Fast forward to 3 years later, Holly debuted Holly Plus, an AI-powered instrument that lets people sing with her own voice. Holly Plus can also sing in languages that Holly has never learned, and in styles that Holly has never trained in. In the TED Talk that Holly gave last year, Holly Plus is used to create harmonies and backup vocals live with another singer, as if Holly were there herself and singing along. In that same TED Talk, Holly discusses why she wants to put her intellectual property out there.
Rather than limiting the use of my voice, I'm creating instruments to allow as many people as possible to create music with me and even as me. That's why I've made versions of Holly Plus freely available for anyone to use online. If I can allow people to play with my IP, my digital identity, my intellectual property, what might they come up with? Could someone else go on tour as me with my permission? Could I be in 1,000 different bands in multiple languages? And what would that even sound like?
This idea of using AI voices as a way to collaborate invigorates me. What if one day I could sing a duet with Maria Callas? What if you could create new music with your favorite 80s band? AI could give us the opportunity to speed up the creative curve, and it challenges us to imagine new possibilities. But I don't believe that AI will ever replace singing. Humans fundamentally need to create and express themselves, and the experience of singing oneself or in a choir or being a part of an audience interacting with a live band in real time, all of these experiences go beyond accuracy of vocal reproduction. I also don't know if an AI will ever be able to capture true soul and authenticity, or be able to spontaneously improvise with a group of musicians while staying in sync. If that does happen, I agree with some of our patrons that that would be the definition of the Turing test for an AI musician. But it won't be for a while. Will AI shake things up and make it difficult for some artists to earn a living? Heck yeah, it's already doing that. And we need to consider the ethical and legal implications. We're going to need a new framework for monitoring digital information and protecting artists. And we collectively need to discuss what kind of moral boundaries should be put in place, then work to put those in place now, because AI is no longer a thing of the future. It is here, it is replacing some voice jobs, and so far, we've only been reacting. I know, I sound like a bit of a doomsdayer right now, but I'm actually super excited to see where AI can go musically. I think it could be incredibly, incredibly awesome. Just imagine, while AI is recreating sounds from today and yesterday, what will we create tomorrow that rests on the shoulders of what an AI can do now? Instead of allowing AI to overwhelm our creativity, what can we do to use it to create more? I'd love to someday share the voice of my grandfather with my infant son, who never had the chance to meet him nor hear him shake the rafters with his tremendous sound. So, if 1 hour of recorded clips and some cash is all it takes to recreate him, then I'm in. I support the development of AI. Money will always be something that drives technology forward, and bringing someone back from the dead is priceless.
Took a bit of a dark turn at the end there, but yeah.
Actually, I thought the end was the positive. I mean, she brings up every topic that we do have to, and when she emphasizes now, she's not bullshitting.
It's all relevant, yeah.
If we had had these discussions about smartphones when we were making them and putting them out there, and Facebook, and like now we are talking about like the mistakes we made along the way 10, 20 years after the fact. This stuff, we do need to talk about this stuff before we go to the GPT-4 hole. Otherwise, the same thing's going to happen all over again. 10, 15 years from now, maybe there will be a robot going back in time.
Gonna go back in time.
I love the documentary style approach. Of all the videos we've watched, when it comes to like YouTube videos, that's something that kind of documentary approach is top level.
Yeah, man. I mean, the tools today are just getting pretty crazy, and the AI stuff, whether it's AI videos, AI avatars, AI voices, getting things, matching all these things together, putting them together. Like some of these videos we're watching give you, 4 or 5 different tools that you just, you can take output from this one, feed it to that one, and then take output from that one and feed it to this one, and you kind of take those ingredients and mix them all together, and it's super easy.
Look at the way the evolution has happened, because that voice AI and the training that she was talking about early on, drag and dictate, and those early speech to text recognizers, the end of the 90s, drag and dictate and naturally speaking, there was a couple of them. And that was the beginning of getting the language recognition that she was talking about there. The AI to do this kind of stuff at the singing level, language recognition, what a singer has to do versus what a speaker has to do ups the game. I'm not surprised that they're not there yet with that.
Yeah, it does
we can
follow
have
certain
a virtual
rules. So
voice, but
they need a lot of input.
singer.
They need a lot of input from singers. Whether it's actual samples of singers doing what they're doing, or whether it's describing the rules of why singers are doing certain things. Why you put, for example, why you put tremolo on this particular note, or vibrato on that particular note as opposed to this note. Things like that are things that are the nuances that kind of give it away. And like they were saying, the accent as well, where sometimes, like if it's a British accent, there are certain words that'll come across that don't have, like, to me, like, it sounds like it lost the accent for a second there. And it's the kind of thing that you would get if somebody was trying to pretend that they had, like if I was trying to pretend I had a British accent, I would mispronounce things here and there because I don't.
You need a little
exactly.
impersonator checkbox. Like, I want to sound like I'm British, but impersonate.
The big trick there is the word choice, because there'll be expressions that you would use there that you wouldn't use here, and vice versa. So it pretty much gives it away a lot of times, depending on where you are and what you're saying. But there are things that would give it away.
Now, actually changing languages when it comes to singing, because she did mention that, dude, I got to check out that album.
She said,
did
you say
album.
She sang in 19 languages?
Yeah, like in languages
Wait,
she
what?
doesn't know.
Yeah.
Changing if you do have a singer's voice ready to go in AI like that, having it sing in different languages is actually probably easier than having it speak in different languages, because the accents when you're speaking and you're translating are a lot more complicated than in the singing world.
I think a lot of it comes down to, like we talked about a few times, the notation, let's say, of how you were to try to program it, or how it tries to come across, where the timing of how words come out because you can break everything down to phonics and have everything broken down to, using these sounds, you can reproduce all the sounds that we use in this language or that language or that language.
Yeah, but with
But to get the
singing, you'd
nuance
have to
of voice.
singing. You go above phonics. At that point, you go into emphasis. So like AI notation to make it sing would you'd have to have like a way to say emphasize the
But that's
same
where
way
the,
you would use a phonic.
That's where the melody one would come in as well, because that melody add-on, you saw how it spaced the words out for you, so that it knew if the melody's bum bum bum, it knows to move the words to match that timing, and that's where that spacing does come in.
That's exactly what I was thinking. You take that melody AI and you hook it up with this singing AI, and between the two of them, those two will probably figure out how to sing.
Yeah, and if you wanted to just for song structure and chords and all that kind of thing, you could just ask again, the main Chat GPT. You could say, "Hey, you're an expert songwriter, and let's write a song."
Let's go ask our lyric guy. Okay, the future Josie and the Pussycats would be a virtual, or the Monkeys. Oh, the 21st. Hey, we're the Monkeys. Chat GPT is probably going to make the next Monkeys.
Sure, I could see it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing is, when you break down what it actually takes to make a song,
I'm gonna make it do it. At this point,
what it takes to make a song is very simple. It's not easy, and there's plenty of things that people have tried that failed, and there's plenty of ones that have been already tried before, and this sounds too much like this, so it's a ripoff or whatever. There's plenty of things, plenty of ground that you don't want to tread, and plenty of ground that has already been tread a bunch of times. Trying to find something brand new that still sounds good or interesting or new in a good way.
Well,
that's the tricky part.
And rip off, like one of the things that she was talking about there is like, oh, what if there was a new Ronnie James Dio album and it sounded awesome and it felt like it was, oh my God, this is a lost album. And it turns out like it was built from the data and information that was fed into an AI to say, make something that we love and make it feel like that. Is that a bad thing?
Well, to me, it comes down to the question.
Composers tried to sound like Beethoven and Bach afterwards, and would literally like compose and write to be the next Beethoven. And was that wrong?
It kind of comes down to that question of how it's presented. Like if they presented it, as you were saying, as it's a long lost Dio thing, and they make up a story that it is, and they put it out that way. That's one thing, and then everybody's deceived. And no,
don't Milli Vanilli.
We don't want to see any of that. Yeah, no. If it's you say, hey, this is an AI, and we were able to recreate because we had enough samples of isolated vocal tracks, for example. Because if you have enough singers who have enough isolated vocal tracks on records, let's say, you can just take those and they can learn enough. An AI can learn enough about the style, like we're saying, on where the emphasis comes in, what notes they like to hang out on, the highest notes they can hit, the lowest notes they can hit, things like that. The AI could learn that, or you could program an AI to mimic those boundaries, let's say. But just getting that actual vocal tenor, the actual sound or the timbre of the voice is the trick.
Or
and that's where the samples can come in.
Go hybrid, a little bit of AI sound, add a human where necessary.
Yep.
Right now, it's going to be in the vocals. Like all the other stuff, crystal clear. You can reproduce instruments through AI, just because sampling and all that technology has made it so that a computer can be a band. Singer, it can do some oohs and ahs and conceptualize, but that's going to be the one place where it's going to take much more time.
Yeah, and we've seen some of the AI just this week where it was matching together, taking an avatar, basically you take the one AI to generate an image, take that image, feed it into one that'll actually turn it into a video, and then take the voice, throw the voice in there, and it can then make a video from using that voice and that image and make you an actual video avatar, talking, it's just like virtual actor, just like that.
And that's what I've been looking at, like, since this, like the last couple of months, I'm trying to find those real time, like, Snapcam is the closest we've gotten, but this stuff and being able to prompt it and actually feed it audio and then make it do things.
Jason Jacobs, he found the lawnmower man. Nice. That's a good one.
Oh, a classic.
And what's up, your boy? How you
I
doing?
gotta refresh.
Yeah. You found the real lawnmower. There was one somebody put up there the other night where the lawnmower just like took off into the sky, flew away.
Well, Pat needs a lawnmower.
Yep.
But anybody's got one.
Oh, actually, I saw one. Speaking of AI, I saw a commercial for some company. I don't have the name in front of me now, but it was a service that was basically a landscaping service where they just send out a robotic AI lawnmower, where there's a crew that would get it off the truck and get it in the right place and all that. But once you program like on the app, you just tell it what the boundaries are, and once you tell it once, it knows that property, it knows it knows how to stay in bounds, it knows how to do its job, and then just mows the whole thing on its own.
Today's auto mowers are way. I mean, just 10 years ago, my buddy Jay in Connecticut, he was trying to build, like, he wanted to remote control it. Like, he just basically wanted to mow from a seat in his lawn, and he made a robotic mower that he could remote control. But the next step was to actually set up sensors and make it so that it would do its thing, which, in the time, in the last 10 years, the cost to do it and the smart little drivers that they have built into them, it's the same technology they use for vacuum cleaners.
Yeah, like a Roomba, sure. The other thing would be for me is the other enabling technology is just taking a drone. Like anybody could just have a drone and just take it and pop it up in the air. Like if you went to somebody's property for the first time, take a drone, pop it up in the air, and it could feed that to an app that you have in the in your iPad, and just you just draw it out. You go, oh yeah, this area right here, don't go over there, and go. And like it knows, okay, this is the area I'm going to mow. I'm not going to go over there, and it can just see where it is in the image, or it knows from GPS, and and it just stays there, does its job, and then when you're done, all right, now get back in the box. You send it back, you put it back on the truck, and you go to the next place.
I predict within the next 5 years, those who have the ching to do it will have selfie drones that will stay in a space around them, and a selfie drone will be like on everybody's Christmas list when they come out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're not far from it. A lot of the drones have that mode where you can just put it into a following mode, and then once you get it to recognize you, and it's like, okay, we're going to stay focused on that, and wherever you go, it's going to follow you. It's like adventure mode or whatever, so that you can be out on a bike or whatever, and it'll follow
you can tie it to a phone. So like if it's basically selfieing around that phone, and as long as you're in good space where it can fly around, and it should be smart and avoid shit if there's like a tree, as long as you're working with it, you could tap a phone like on your chest, and basically this thing could just film you from all around you.
Yep.
If you really want to go hardcore, getting chips in you and having something that can actually calibrate to you, trust me, in the future when people say, okay, fine, put a chip in me, it's going to be because they want like that kind of functionality.
Me, I'm good with just having a phone, on my person. That's fine. And again, one of the things that, like one of the drones, I actually have one that I have to fix one of the motors on. But I have a drone here, and it does run from your phone. Like you take your phone, and it actually mounts into the controller, so that you're hitting, that's your screen on the controller, so you're actually seeing through the camera on the drone.
Yeah, drone controls on the phone are not bad.
Yeah. That's one of those that we can check out at home. But that's, again, like just some of those technologies together, is like,
We got to have a drone night, but man, I want a drone at least to play with.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is I saw a bunch, I see, commercials all the time, but I see them, $30 for, a 4K video drone. I'm like, what? I'm like, for $30? I'm like, I mean, I don't imagine it's particularly robust, let's say, or would feel very solid at a price like that. But if there are $30 drone options, that means that maybe there's a $60 one that is actually solid and good features, etc.
If it works for at least a couple of good shots, at $30, I mean, I'll buy 5 of them.
At one point, I was even just thinking, I do a lot of a lot of live shows. I go and work with bands that are at live shows, and a lot of times I'll just set up a camera stand and put my phone up in there and video. But with a drone, I mean, if it had, let's say a drone has at least 3 or 4 hours of charge time, I could just technically just fly a drone like up in the corner, like go hang it up there and just keep the camera on the whole time, and
yeah, they're
go
pretty
collect it at the end.
They're as stable as a tripod at that point.
Yep. As long as the air's not like really blowing around or whatever, but that would be pretty cool. Yeah, just like in was it Lawnmower? No, not Running Man. It was the old movie, Tom Selleck. And
Running Man was a great one. When it came to how they filmed and the surveillance there, that was ahead of its time.
It was. I was thinking, was it Gene Simmons? Tom Selleck. I mean, this is like way back when, but at one point, like he just likes to look it up and like blinks, and that activates a drone that he had flying up to like flies down. Same idea, just keeping a little drone, just kind of like flying up in the corner there, and just being able to film for a couple hours straight. You could have one up over here and one up over there, so you're getting the full sweep of what's going on.
And you're gonna see that's another technology that's not going away. Like if you're anti-drone or anti-AI, sucks for you, because these things are coming.
Yeah, and they can do some stuff. One thing
I want to understand them, just like that last video. Her desire to explore and discuss this technology is admirable.
Now I think it was. There were at least 2 or 3 different ones in there that went into, or that would be lead-ins into the one about the new rules from the Copyright Office about the AI. At the same time, we do have the Beato ear training, mastering intervals. If you want to do that one, I mean, we got a couple different options of what to go to next, but just thinking about how the subject matter that we were just talking about really does feed into this video, because we're talking about how things are changing so quickly, and this is something from just this week talking about how they're starting to get on top of it with the rules.
Yeah, it's been an AI night.
Exactly.
I would totally go with this.
Yeah, it's a good one. New rules.
Hi there, my name is Neil Blevins, and this video is called U.S. Copyright Office Issues Rules for Generative AI. So a few weeks ago, the U.S. Copyright Office issued a policy for the use of generative AI artwork with respect to copyright. It's called Copyright Registration Guidance, Works Containing Material Generated by Artificial Intelligence. So I hope you get a chance to read the policy, but I wanted to give you the TLDR here. So 2 notes before getting started. First, legal disclaimer, I am not a lawyer. I'm not offering any legal advice or interpretation. I'm simply reading a policy offered by the Copyright Office and adding some personal commentary. I've done a bunch of research to make sure everything I'm saying is correct, but it's possible I might have missed something. So if so, let me know in the comments and I'll find a way to correct any issues. And second, this is defined as the policy of the Copyright Office. Future laws and lawsuits and things could change their policy in the future, but for right now, this is what their policy is. So the first big takeaway from the policy is, in the office's view, it is well established that copyright can protect only material that is the product of human creativity. So the Copyright Office asks whether the work is basically one of human authorship, with the computer merely being an assisting instrument, or whether the traditional elements of authorship in the work, literary, artistic, or musical expression, or elements of selection and arrangement, were actually conceived and executed not by a man but by a machine. So with that base, the next big thing they say is that a piece of AI-generated art cannot be copyrighted, and that a prompt isn't sufficient to count as human artistry. So they say when an AI technology receives solely a prompt from a human and produces complex written, visual, or musical works in response, the traditional elements of authorship are determined and executed by the technology, not by the human user. These prompts function more like instructions to a commissioned artist. They identify what the prompter wishes to have depicted, but the machine determines how these instructions are implemented in its output. So in short, if you put a prompt into a piece of AI software like this one, a biomechanical warlord from outer space, this image cannot be copyrighted. So another explicit example they give is if a comic book has AI art but a human-written text, the text can be copyrighted, but the art cannot. So the next big point in the policy is if you photobash a piece of art using elements generated by an AI, that can be copyrighted, but the elements themselves can't be copyrighted. So another artist can take the same elements and photobash their own image from them. And they say, for example, a visual artist who uses Adobe Photoshop to edit an image remains the author of the modified image, and a musical artist may use effects such as guitar pedals when creating a sound recording. In each case, what matters is the extent to which the human had creative control over the work's expression and actually formed the traditional elements of authorship. So as a personal example, I used, I believe, Midjourney to create these 3 images, and I gave it the prompt alien spider legs made of white reptile skin and lumps. So these 3 images definitely cannot be copyrighted. But then I went and I removed elements from them, and these elements, you might be able to make a legal argument that these can be copyrighted because I've technically changed the image, but personally I don't think that's really the case. I think that these probably are also not copyrightable because they're still basically just pieces from the original AI-generated image. But then this image here, where I took those elements and other elements and also hand-painted and did a bunch of other stuff to create this creature, this can be copyrighted because I put a lot more of my own spin on things in the way that I arranged the pieces and then painted on top of it. Now this example isn't given specifically in the policy, but the image that is on the left, that is an image that I painted using a combination of hand paint and photos and 3D, and that one is copyrightable. And then I took that and I gave it as an image prompt to Midjourney that created the one in the middle. And then that generated image I took and I modified, changed, painted over, added some more photo elements, and got the image that is on the right. So the image on the left is definitely copyrightable. The image on the right is definitely copyrightable. The middle one I'm not completely sure about. Again, just because they don't mention it specifically. I suspect it is copyrightable simply because you used an image prompt instead of a text prompt, and so therefore you had more control over the final image. But that would definitely be a good experiment to do. Send something like this to the Copyright Office and see what they say. So before continuing with the policy, I wanted to do a little bit of extra work here to talk about the difference between copywriting art and copywriting a character. So in this example, we have Spider-Man, and this is the very first comic that Spider-Man appeared in. And the artwork for the comic book is copyrighted, but then on top of that, the character is also copyrighted. And so what this means is that if I were to make an exact copy of the art itself, I can't copyright that because I've taken it from copyrighted work. And then the character itself, I also can't copyright because it's already copyrighted. Now let's say that I made a brand new painting of Spider-Man doing something. That artwork can't be copyrighted because even though I did the artwork, it's using a copyrighted character. And then the character itself, once again, can't be copyrighted because it's already been copyrighted by Marvel. So here's another example, and then this one is in the public domain. So this is a picture of the Mona Lisa, the painting, and because it's in the public domain, it's no longer copyrighted, I can paint an exact duplicate of it, and in fact I can even put my name at the bottom of it if I wanted to. And as long as I don't claim that it is the Mona Lisa by Da Vinci and it's the Mona Lisa by Neil Blevins, I can copyright that piece of artwork. But because it's based on a public domain art, that means that somebody else can come along and they can paint their own version of the Mona Lisa that looks exactly the same, and they can copyright that as well. So potentially there could be hundreds of exact replicas or almost exact replicas of the Mona Lisa, each one copyrighted because it's based on a public domain piece of art. Now let's move over to books for a second. So you may not know this, but the character of Sherlock Holmes and his very first book are both in the public domain. And what that means is that I can write a brand new Sherlock Holmes book by Neil Blevins, and I can even copyright that book and sell it, and it's totally fine. Now I can't copyright the character because the character is a public domain character, and that means that somebody else, they can also write a brand new Sherlock Holmes book, and they can copyright that book, but then once again, they can't copyright the character because the character is in the public domain. So there's no way for me to stop them from using that character, even though I've written a book about that character. So how does this relate to AI artwork? Well, by reading the policy and by doing the research on public domain images, I believe this is the way it's going to work. So say you're a big video game company and you have a character you want to make for your video game. So let's say that I'm somebody who works at the company and I produce a piece of artwork by typing in a text prompt, which then gets turned into this particular piece of artwork. So because it's not copyrightable, that means that this image and the character design are both in the public domain. And that means that I could make a brand new painting. As a human, I could do a brand new painting of the same warlord, and that character cannot be copyrighted because it's based on a public domain character. I can, however, copyright the art because I produced the art. And in the same way as the other examples, that means that somebody else from outside of my company, if they had that original image or saw that original image generated by the computer, they could also paint their own version of that character. And while they can copyright the art itself, they can't copyright the character because, once again, the character is in public domain. This is why I think the job of concept artist won't be going away. Companies need characters, vehicles, and other designs so that they can have full copyright over and make sure that other people don't copy. That being said, the job of concept artist might become the job of painting over AI-generated artwork just enough that it's considered a new design. So the job may change enough that people don't enjoy doing it anymore, and then they don't strive to become concept artists. And then, of course, also it's important to mention that it might become the case where big companies hire fewer concept artists because the computer is doing more of the work. But this is stuff that only time will tell. So getting back to the policy, there are two more points that I think are big. So first of all, when applying for copyright, it is the duty of the applicant to say they used AI and in what capacity, so the office can decide if this is appropriate use of the software for copyright purposes. So that means when you apply for the copyright itself, you have to actually put in there what you did so that they can make a decision about whether it's copyrightable or not. And in the same way, it says many times in the policy the words case-by-case basis. And so basically what they're doing is they're saying that there's so many different ways AI could produce an image or be used to help produce an image that the office reserves the right to make a separate judgment on each individual instance, including new techniques that haven't even been invented yet. And it's worth noting, of course, that people could lie. They could go for the copyright and say they didn't use AI when they really did use AI. But of course, doing that, they're risking the possibility that somebody might find out, and if they do, you could see their copyright go away. And then finally, the question of can AI be legally trained on copyrighted work is still not resolved, but they are looking into it. I suspect this question will be answered through litigation, more specifically 2 lawsuits, including the one brought by Getty Images and the class action lawsuit brought on by Sarah Anderson, Kelly McKernan, and Carla Ortiz. But even if the lawsuits fail and it's deemed legal to train an AI on copyrighted material, that won't change the fact that the imagery generated is uncopyrightable unless substantially enhanced by an artist. Changing that decision by the Copyright Office, I believe, would require a brand new law that is separate from the current lawsuits. So I hope you get a chance to read the policy, and I know this stuff can be a little bit dry, but the reality is if you are going to make a living off of making artwork, this is the kind of stuff that you really need to know so that you can properly protect yourself when you're creating a new character or a new book or a new piece of artwork or whatever. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you did enjoy this. And feel free to go to neilblevins.com and go to the art lesson section if you want to see more tutorials, articles, and videos like this one. And feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to be notified the next time I post a new video. Thank you very much.
Whoa. A lot of food for thought there.
Yeah, some good stuff. I think my connection was just having a little bit of an issue just then. But yeah, some really good, again, timely information where this just came about, or this is the first that I've heard of this part, but this is such a brand new field that it really is fun that the fact that we're just like right on top of it, and the fact that we've been messing with some of the AI already, so we already have some experience with how to converse with the AI, how to get them to do what we want. It's very cool.
Well, and how could an AI actually copyright something? Normally, copyrights are given to an individual or
well, that's why they're saying you can't
business
copyright
entity.
Yeah.
So if you're going to copyright it to an AI, you're like,
They're
oh,
not.
the AI created it.
That's not what they're saying. Is they're saying that
You
the
have
AI
to
material
give
can't be
the
copyrighted.
AI some kind of sentience. It's like Bicentennial Man, where like the AI is going to come one day and say, I actually made all that shit and you guys made all the money.
I think that's why they're getting ahead of that with this in particular, saying that, you know, once you've got AI involved that's, you know, unless it's, again, substantially altered. And again, my thoughts are things like if I were a writer and I'd said I'm going to write a novel, right? And I decide I have characters in mind, I have a concept in mind, I have a story arc in mind, and I just want the AI to kind of help me draw up skeletal, you know, storyboarding, let's say, of how we're doing. It doesn't have to be the actual images, but the idea of what would be images to represent storyboarding of the story in order to be able to pitch this to somebody, as an example. And it could help with that. But now with that amount of assistance, do I have problems when I try to copyright the book now because AI was used as part of it? But again, if I had enough of the concept that I fed in there in the beginning,
And that's what I was wondering when they were talking about concept art, because it's one thing when you're scripting in the back room and it's not material you're going to use. The material you use is where lawsuits start to happen. The best example, Shazam. You remember Captain Marvel?
Yeah.
And Superman. They actually sued the makers of Shazam because of the cape, and he looked too much like Superman. It wasn't even a question of like, oh, you're writing Superman stories and you can't copyright the character, which he talks about.
Yep.
It was about like, oh, you look too much like our character, and copywriting a cape. As absurd as that sounds, DC eventually won. It was like a 30-year like lawsuit, and eventually DC won and inhaled the Shazam character into their universe, along with a whole bunch of other characters. They took down the other company for making characters that were like theirs. Do we want a future where like people start to copyright like a tone, a groove, a progression?
Well, the other question is with the superhero example. If it was like one superhero, maybe it was fine. Maybe it was two, but like maybe then the one company starts like copying like the entire universe on their side, and it's like character for character. Instead of the Green Lantern, we've got the Yellow Torch or whatever. It's like they have like an exact replica essentially of whatever. That's where sometimes company would be fine with a little bit of copying, fine, same idea. But then once it becomes now you're really just stealing our shit. That's another story.
It's mimicry. If you look at the comic companies, I mean, they all had characters that were like the others. Justice League, Avengers, all of that was just them copying each other.
But are they different enough is the question, right? Yeah.
Well, they had to be. I mean, yes, our fast guy is called the Wizard, and your fast guy is called Flash. They don't have the same name.
And somebody's because he runs real fast, and the other guy is because he slows down time or whatever. They have different ways of making the same effect, happen. Whatever.
Yes,
you can have things like that.
His costume's orange. This one's blue.
Yeah, exactly. But again, there's fine lines between some of that stuff, and as long as it's not a direct, obvious ripoff, I don't think it's usually an issue. But in some cases, those lines are tough to draw, and in other cases, some people think they own an entire genre essentially, or an entire corner of the market on something.
Like what he was talking about there, Sherlock Holmes. You can't copyright the character, but shit, you can write a book about him. You can make the next Sherlock Holmes novel, copyright the novel. You just can't own Sherlock.
Yeah, but that's kind of cool though, because then you've already got a built-in not only character but history and whole universe to work with and do whatever kind of story you want. You could even whatever you could do your own like Sherlock Holmes through time or whatever, like do a whole Bill and Ted's, like drop him a phone booth and like yoink him out of where he is and have him solve things here and there throughout the universe. You can do whatever you want. That's crazy.
Is that what they call derivative content? Like
at that point, I would say so.
Derived from like today's Star Trek universe is derived from genes.
Yeah, and that's where you got the origin stories or whatever. And it depends how much you're utilizing the actual characters, like you said. But as long as it's based on something public domain, you can't do the character, but you can do the work. As long as it's original enough, you can't just copy the old story and just say, "Oh, this is my version of the story." I mean, you'd have to get the permission, obviously, for that. Yeah, but if it is public domain, maybe not even. Maybe it's public domain, you could probably just go ahead.
Put some effort, a little elbow grease, a little bit of yourself into it, and chances are you're okay.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I think we managed to do all of the AI videos that we had lined up for today, which is awesome.
Total AI night.
And I think we have room for if you want to do the Beato ear training. We could do that one at the end here.
Oh, recognize.
Yes,
we have to recognize. Yep. And right now we're trying to recognize intervals. And I mean, this is from the king. For me, the king of YouTube music channel. Like, if you subscribe to one channel for music and advice, he's the man.
Exactly. Beato.
That's
And
why I
some good ear
figured
training.
he's the best source when it comes to like pitch recognition. His kid is like AI.
Yeah, yeah. And again, it's it's about the process that he used. A lot of it comes down to certain windows of opportunity. Like at certain ages, when children are developing, they are more open to learning these kinds of things. And if you learn even a little bit about how to do something like ear training at that open window period when you're really young, then it's much easier for you to learn later, even if you didn't do anything musical since you were that age. So it's good to expose kids of a very young age to music in different ways and have them try stuff, even if they don't want to stick with it. It's good to have them try stuff, because if they tried it ever, they decide later they want to do it, they'll have an easier time.
Yeah, and growing up with Rick as a father around him, like, what better training could you get?
Yeah, exactly. Always music there. And I mean, you've seen that studio, like, oh my God.
And he analyzes music like nobody else on
Yep.
YouTube.
Absolutely. And he also talks a lot about copyright. I mean, he's another one who's been talking music copyright about everything. A lot of the stuff that he uses, like he does get, he's gotten copyright strikes before, and he was very mad about it.
Oh, and he's not afraid to say his opinion there.
Yeah,
He has he has shared his experience on YouTube of proving he's an instructor, and that in some cases they were giving him copyright shit when he was teaching and analyzing music. And
And if you want to talk about fair use, I mean, is there a fairer use anywhere? You know what I mean? Like, that is the fairest use. So, yeah, that's what makes sense there. But yeah, definitely a fan of Beato's stuff, and I'm excited to see what he's got here for us.
And you're gonna love this. Is a younger Rick, 2016, I think, 6 years ago.
Nice. Very cool.
Everybody, I'm Rick Beato. Mastering intervals, both hearing and singing, is one of the most difficult things for most musicians. I'm going to go over some basic principles and strategies that will help you quickly internalize all the different sets of intervals. We're going to begin with major and minor thirds and sixths. I'm going to go through some of the basic exercises that I like to use in teaching interval hearing and singing. It's coming up next. We're going to begin with how to learn to sing and hear major and minor thirds. I like to use both diminished and augmented triads to do this. Now, we know that augmented triads are built with two major thirds. For example, C augmented triad would be a C, E is a major third, and then E to G sharp is a major third. So an augmented triad is made up of two major thirds. So for the augmented triad, what I like to do is I like to start with the middle note, which would be, in this case, I'm using a C augmented chord, be the note E. Bum, bum, is to practice your ascending third. Bum, is to practice your descending third. Once you internalize the sound of that augmented chord, da, 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 da. So I'm using a symmetrical chord, which is an augmented chord that's built with two major thirds, going to the middle note and splitting it, ascending and descending, so I can practice that same interval, so I can quickly hear it on both sides of it. The next thing you want to do is to start moving it scale-wise. I would start moving on each white note. So for example, I started with C augmented. The next one I'm going to go to is D augmented. Da, 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 da. And then you move on to E. So you play the chord. Da, da, da. And then you check. Da. So going above and below the center note of an augmented chord will help you learn how to hear major third, ascending and descending intervals. Next we go to the minor third, ascending and descending. And we're going to go to the other symmetrical chord, which is the diminished chord, which is made up of 2 minor thirds, okay? So C diminished chord is made up of the notes C to E flat, which is a minor third, and then E flat to G flat is a minor third. So is a C diminished chord, C, E flat, G flat. I take the middle note, da, 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 da. So then, once again, we move up to the next scale degree, only with the white notes. Eventually, we're going to do this chromatically, all these exercises. So I take the next diminished chord, I play the chord, I get the sound in my ear, da, 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 da. So the first time through, I just sing it. The second time through, I sing and play it and check it. And then you go to E diminished. Da, 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 da. So above and below the center note. The next interval we're going to go to is actually the second. The major second, we're going to do a similar thing. We're going to play 2 consecutive major seconds. In this case, it'll be C, D, E. So it's the first 3 notes of the C major scale. And we're going to start with the middle note. Da, 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 check, da. Okay, and then you move up. And I'm going to play the 3 notes. Now, these 3 notes are coming from the D major scale. So D, E, F sharp. And I'm going to go hit the thing, so I'm going to hit the chord, get it in my ear, play the center note. Da, 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 da. Okay? So that is going to be how we learn the major second ascending and descending. And what you want to do is go up. I would use a whole tone scale. So I'm going to go here. The next set of 3 notes would be E, F sharp, G sharp. Then I'm going to go F sharp, G sharp, A sharp. And then I'm going to go A flat, B flat, C. Okay, and then B flat, C, D. And then we're back to the top. And then the next time around, you're going to take the 3 notes. If you go, you're going to go on D flat, E flat, and F. And then you're going to move up by whole steps. So you're going to use the 2 series of whole tone scales to work on your major second ascending and descending intervals. Okay, next is the minor second. The minor second's a little trickier because you really have to use your ear for this, and it's difficult to sing. I'm going to begin with a 3-note cluster. I'm going to go to the middle note. I'm going to listen to the cluster. Eventually, with these intervals, the thirds, the seconds, the fifths, fourths, sevenths, and sixths, we're going to go up chromatically. And da, 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 da. Tricky to... Those half steps, really hard to sing, especially when you're holding the note down to really nail it. You got to be able to hear those intervals incredibly quickly like that, especially while a note is being played. Because when you're hearing a melody, you're generally, if you're playing the melody by ear, you're actually playing a note while you're thinking of the next note. So that note is na. That note is sustaining when I'm thinking that in my head. And now I'm going to sing that next note, and I want to really stick it right on pitch. The next thing we're going to move to is the 5th interval. Now the 5th interval, I'm going to do a very similar thing. I'm going to use compound fifths in order to teach singing ascending and descending 5th intervals. So I'm going to start by playing a C compound 5th. C, G, D. If I go to the middle note, G, ba, ba, right? So I'm hearing that. I play the chord. Da, da, ba, ba. Then you move up to the next one. Actually, I'm going to move down here. Let me go down to the easier one to sing. So I'm going G, D, A, compound 5th. So it's G, D, A. I'm going to take the middle note. da, da, da. You follow? Da, 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 da. Then check yourself. Da. Then you move up to the next one. Da, 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 da. And you keep going. You can either go chromatically or just go through the white notes first, then the black notes later. The faster you get at it, the faster you're going to be able to sight sing and hear these intervals. Fifths are actually particularly tricky for people, especially descending fifths seem to be difficult. I'm not sure why. Probably from not practicing. The next thing we're going to do are compound fourths. Okay, we call this a quartal voicing. So I'm going to use F quartal here just because I'm just put my hand down on it. So I'm going to take an F quartal voicing, which is two perfect fourths. So F to B flat is a perfect fourth. B flat to E flat is a perfect fourth. So the strategy here, once again, is take the middle note. Da, da. You follow? Da, 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 da. That is really a great way. Move to the next one. Da, 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 da. So once you can just practice going through all the white notes, I can go here with F quartal, G quartal, A quartal, B quartal, C quartal, D quartal, E quartal, and then I'll use the quartals chords off the black keys. Okay, major, minor, sixth. We're going to use this diminished and augmented triad, but we're going to use spread triads, and it's going to work in just the opposite way of using the close position augmented and diminished triads. Okay, if we take a C augmented triad, so I'm going to take, and I take the middle note and put it up the octave. So this is a C augmented spread triad. Okay, so I've got C, G sharp, E. Well, the thing about augmented triads, when they're in close position, meaning when all the notes are right next to each other in major thirds, they're in major third intervals. But when you put them in as a spread triad, you have two minor sixth intervals on each side. So ba, ba. So the augmented triad, when it's in spread position, will help you learn your ascending and descending minor sixths. When it's in closed position or root position, it helps you with ascending and descending major thirds. For minor sixths, you use augmented. So then I'm going to go, let's say I go up to the next one, and I go to D spread triad. I take the middle note, F sharp. So I get D, F sharp, A sharp. Take the F sharp, put up the octave. And I go da, 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 da. You get really quick at it just by doing that. The center note will help you hear those intervals really quickly. So that's for minor sixth. Well, for the major sixth interval, ascending and descending, we're going to use a diminished triad in spread position, but it's not going to be the same one that we were using. So very simply, I'm going to take the note A, I'm going to play up a major sixth, would be F sharp, I'm going to go down a major sixth, which would be C, okay? Now this is actually a spread triad, but it's actually an F sharp diminished spread triad, okay? With the C, which is the flat 5, is in the bass. So it's flat 5, third, root. So that inversion of a spread triad, diminished triad, is the one that we're going to use, okay? So I'm going to go, I'm going to play it, I'm going to go da, 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 and then you move up a scale degree each note. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to go up to here. Okay. Da, 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 fast. Da. So once again, move up by whole steps, or if you want to move up all the white notes. So I started with C as my lowest note. Then I could go with D as my lowest note. I could go with E as my lowest note on here. So I can start here on C as my lowest note and move up one more whole step, move up another whole step, move up a half step, and I would just go up the white notes where the lowest note of the chord moves up the white notes and practice it that way first. And then you can move on the black notes. And then the next thing to do is just move it chromatically. So chromatically would be here, and then every note moves up a half step like that. It's actually a little bit more difficult to move up by step. So that's actually a better way to practice at first. But you should be able to zip right through these really quickly. So remember, the augmented chord is for minor sixths when it's in spread position. And the diminished triad, which I did, it was a spread triad with the fifth, with the flat five and the bass, will give you the major sixth interval. Okay, and you're once again going off the center note, above it and below it. Okay, the last set of intervals are the sevenths. Now, with the sevenths, we'll talk about the major seven first. Let me take the note, I'll take the note A, and I'm going to go up a major seven, and then I'm going to go down a major seven, so it's going to be B flat on the bass. Now, this is a really dissonant interval, but I'm going to get in my ear. That's really tricky. That's just something to practice. And once you hear those, I'm really focusing on the sound. It's hard. But you just got to be able to. You got to get real quick at it, and you will get quick at it. Next thing, we'll do the minor seventh intervals. So I'm going to do minor seventh ascending here. So I'm going to go A to G, and then minor seventh on the bottom end is going to be B to A. Once again. By surrounding the notes, you will become better and better at singing these ascending and descending. Most people have trouble with the descending intervals. That's not uncommon at all if you have trouble singing them. Most people rely on certain songs in order to learn these, and I've always thought that that was not necessarily a great way to do it, because a lot of the songs that we used to use in the old days when I was learning sight singing, people don't know songs. They know Here Comes the Bride, but they don't know a lot of the old songs that we used to know back then. So I like to pick just the center note and do that. The last interval that we have is the augmented fourth or the flat five, the tritone. Okay, so whether I go ascending or descending, it's going to be the same note since it splits the octave. It's actually pretty easy to do once you've done the other ones. I think that the augmented fourth is one of the easiest. Now everybody's, a lot of people use da, da, but if you do that, I don't think it helps you sing the descending interval, and you get so lopsided in your learning by practicing the ascending interval that you actually develop a weakness on the descending side. That's all for now. Please subscribe here to my Everything Music YouTube channel and tell your friends about it. Also, if you're interested in the Beato book, you can write me at Rick Beato, #1.
Everything music.
Interested.
All about
is
intervals.
A master.
Yep.
That is a master course in each interval. I love the minor sixth. That one got me thinking of some ideas.
Yeah. They're all good. It's good to get comfy with them. Big sneeze.
Oh, bless you. So that was Rick Beato
Mm-hmm.
over on at YouTube, and if you're not already following him, you should. The source for it was kind of a trip for me. I'm so used to seeing him with the guitar lately. Like it's been a while since I seen him in front of keyboards and doing vocal
Yeah.
tips. I mean, that was for vocalists.
Exactly. And it's not. I mean, it's mostly for vocalists, but also the getting it in your ear and then being able to sing it also gets it to where you're putting it into your vocabulary essentially, to where whatever note you're hitting or whatever note the band is hitting, you would be able to hear a sixth above, a sixth below, a third above, a third below, like because those would be helpful at any time for harmonizing or for contrasting or depending on what you're trying to do.
And getting comfortable with naturally transposing, like a half step up, here's the interval, half step up, here's the interval.
Yep.
Getting comfortable with that is key.
Yeah,
Literally.
exactly. And it also helps you with understanding your range. So you understand where maybe you started it in C today, but by the time you got to the top, you were finding you were out of your range. Well, next time start it down at A, and see if that works for you. To get if you're doing an octave of whatever, like that whole same thing. Starting at that first note, you're doing that the interval above, interval below, and then you're going all the way up to an octave above, working your way through all those different intervals. Like you said about doing chromatically instead of just doing all the white notes, or depending on how you're looking at it, depending on what instrument you're doing it on.
And this is another reason why I love his channel. He has this like what makes this song great thing that he does, which like the whole reason why I go explore a song and cover a song is because it's like I want to understand the pieces and what makes that song great. He does it at a higher level.
Absolutely. And I've seen a number of them from him and from other people going over whether it's Pink Floyd songs or whether it's Rush songs, or there's a bunch of different ones where some of the greatest artists or some of the artists that have made the greatest music, and just what makes the song great, and that's the perfect focus of not just here's a great song and then blah blah blah, and just go through just make it with this same progression and use a melody line, etc. You could have AI do something very similar, but what is it that is the essence that makes that song great? That's the key.
Yeah, and he'll usually throw some history and what was going on at that time, because sometimes that's relevant
context,
to why
absolutely.
that song was great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, everything.
And sometimes the song was an anthem.
Not bullshit.
Yeah, and everything. It could be it was an anthem that was big. All that kind of stuff. Sure.
Yeah, one of the best on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. So a whole bunch of AI stuff tonight. A little bit of ear training at the end there. Going through some piano and some intervals and some vocal stuff from Mr. Beato. Always appreciated.
Talked a whole bunch of shh. I.T.
With Glenn and Tony. And we will catch you guys next time.
Yeah, SR show tomorrow night.
Yep, tomorrow night. Be there. Or we'll come find you.
Night, everyone.
Night. Ambient noise, yeah?
So now you're grabbing some BandLab clips.
Now for me that would also be something where I would use like volume automation and like bring that from the bottom, like bring it in and then bring it back out.
And these are the kinds of sounds you can stretch. With this AI, like stretching it actually can be cool.
Oh, that was perfect for the interlude too.
Ended right in the right
I
spot.
didn't even notice 40. I didn't even realize the texture faded out at the interlude until it happened. I'm like, wait a minute.
Sometimes you just, it was just meant to be that way.